The college football experience, ACC Conference Preview and Picks episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by our very own Patreon. Yes, score exclusive perks and content available only to our patrons at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. So check it out. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
This is Jerry Glanville, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, brother.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience. It's not the bottom line, folks. All right. We are here to talk about the ACC. And this is what I think of when I see the ACC. I'm joking. Perhaps you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to. Well, my name is Colby Swiggett, database dad, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terrorist pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fucking yeah. Here we are talking ACC.
You gotta love it. You got CJ Sullivan's beautiful face on there. You got Megan Rapinoe, who, again, probably what you think of when you think of ACC sports.
You think of Boston College
women's
football?
Soccer, you know.
That's true. The ACC does have some great women's soccer programs.
UNC women's soccer. You know?
Yes.
Much better
sports.
photo there. Much better. Blow that up. Now we're talking.
Right. There we go. As the computer is taking a minute to understand that. But here we are. What's up to Brendan Moore? Yes. As we got a big day here, I am joined by my co-host. Give it up for former JMU Duke defensive back, the burrito eating, sideline kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, Patty C in the place to be.
Hi.
Oh yeah, let's go. We're talking Atlantic Coast Conference. We were going to start with the CUSA, but we did a last second pivot. That's why you saw the screen be a little crazy. Last second pivot. Talk about the ACC because we know it to be, well, we thought it was going to be the most dominant conference in college football at one point. When they added all those teams, we thought, well, Florida State, Miami, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech's got a natty in 90. It's been some rough times in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Understatements.
It's also been national championships, plural.
Not
every league can say that.
It's true.
Only one in the playoffs, but yeah, only one in the playoff era. All right.
Well, two championships.
One team. Yeah, one team. Yeah.
There's a couple conferences with zero, so one is a lot more than zero.
True, but there's an East Coast bias. Come on, let's be honest. You're still doing 8-game schedules. Still doing 8-game schedules, huh? Right? It's tough out there. Look, I am joined by the ACC guru himself. Give it up for the rooftop IPA drinking, homebrew making, tobacco road living, the free lot giving, former Herndon Basketball League MVP. Give it up for NC Nick in the place to be.
There we go. What's up, guys?
I mean, I'll give you some more techno music.
Can't get enough of that. Let's be honest.
You know, when I saw La Tech on the background, I thought there was some late breaking expansion news, and maybe the ACC was dipping their toes into Louisiana.
Perhaps they should, because we do have breaking news, and since I get sued for every song I play, I don't have a lot of breaking news music besides this.
Nobody's coming after you for that one.
No one's coming at. I think that band died like probably a week after doing that song. I have a feeling they probably died. And thankfully their sons or daughters or whoever left has not came for us. But
not a lot of royalties on that song.
I'm still expecting it any day now. They even came for me for the fucking Sesame Street song I had going, which was a deep. It's not like the actual song of Sesame Street. I found an episode with one clip, one little sample, song. And they got me. They came for me. So, folks, we're here to talk the ACC, but we got to talk about the breaking news, and that is, I do have music that actually this one won't get me sued. Look out! Watch him go. Brett Yormark, perhaps a guy on a Buffalo because the Colorado Buffaloes. It's been announced. I think tomorrow will be the official day, but it seems like it's been reported by Pete Thamel, Brett McMurphy, all those guys that cover college football, just like myself. I was there with them, covering the Mountain West. All right,
Flex.
Yeah. What's up? What's up, world? Didn't think you'd be able to get me into a suit and tie. Well, it's just a blazer. It's just a blazer, but still, that's a suit and tie.
Let me clown Colby a little bit here. I saw you on VEASAN the other day with a blazer and a V-neck.
Well, that's because I came straight from what's it called?
It looked like you came straight from a night of partying.
Well, it is Vegas. Are you kidding me? You think I'm sober in Vegas? Come on.
That should be the Vegas look. On set, just hammered, fucking doing episodes. You weren't, but the V-neck needed some work. It was the bacon neck with the suit on. I think it's a look you got there, though.
Oh, well, thank you. And clearly the Mountain West coaches agree because, I did, I think, make all of them laugh. More clips will be published. Follow us at TCE on SGPN. But, folks, we'll talk about that later when we do the Mountain West. Let's talk about the Colorado Buffaloes going back home. They were part of the Big Eight, which became, people don't know the history of the Big Eight, became the Big 12. Big Eight, they've been a part of the Big Eight for damn near 100 years. I feel like 80 years. So they're back home. They're back home in the Big Eight. NC Nick, your first thoughts of prime time coming. I know that he wanted to get in this. I know they were going to ask him, but he's obviously before he got the Colorado job, he lived in Texas. His kids played high school ball in Texas. He's also from the state of Florida. So he wanted to get into both those markets.
And as a fan of college football, I think it's great. I never really cared for college football. College football. I never cared for Colorado in the Pac-12. So I think this is a better fit, and they will bring back some of those old rivalries. I guess that rivalry with Utah is just going to go by the wayside.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh no,
that made up rivalry. Yeah.
But I think it's a smart move by Colorado. Obviously, I think it's a wise move by the Big 12 too. So that gets them up to 13, right?
That will get them up to 13. There's speculation that we could have another school in this next week named. Who knows? I don't want to start lying again. And seeing all the fucking people tweet it's UConn, it's Oregon, it's Washington.
Speculate. Please share. I want to hear it.
Well, the one that I hear most likely before today was UConn, but after today, I'm hearing that it's going to be a Pac-12 school that's not one of the four corner schools that has been speculated: Arizona State, Utah. So that would either be Oregon or Washington, I believe.
Wow.
So who knows? But I still think, for my money, I think it's going to be UConn and Colorado.
Yeah.
UConn. Interesting pickup. Christopher Moore, I don't know if you just saw that comment, said primetime can't wait to get into Texas for recruiting purposes.
Yeah.
You wonder, when does this happen though too? Like, is this
next year?
Next year.
From what I understand,
he'll dominate Texas recruiting.
Yeah.
So now instead of the Pac-10, it's the Pac-9.
They need to quickly add. If I were them, I know San Diego State. I was just at Mountain West Media Day. Pledge their allegiance back into the Mountain West.
Oh,
no, we're not going anywhere. Right now, the Pac-12's calling them, say you got to get in. You got to get in. And I would, if I'm them, the Pac-12's got to worry about Oregon and Washington essentially moving at some point. Maybe even Utah, Arizona, or Arizona State.
Right.
But If I'm the Pac-12 to preserve itself, I think you need to get 4 schools, maybe 5 schools now that Colorado's leaving. So that will give you 14. So if I'm them, I'm calling up right now. I'm saying, hey, SMU, San Diego State, you're in. All right. And UNLV, Boise State, maybe even Colorado State, you're in. Get in. All right.
Colorado State would be huge.
Yeah. Get in. So
that would be interesting. Lose Colorado, pick up Colorado State.
That's
That
not
would
a
be a way
win.
to fuck Colorado
yes,
over.
that
would be a way to fuck.
But Colorado State just threw a ton of money. They threw a ton of money behind their football program. So it makes sense in that capacity. If anything, the one that would be surprising would be UNLV, but I think you just do it for the market and to have more teams in case the others leave. So
I know, but the problem with I don't know if we can go down this whole rabbit hole of expansion, but the problem with more teams is that's a smaller slice of the pie. That's a huge
right
issue.
now you got to be thinking about survival. You got to be thinking about survival, or Cal and Stanford are going to be playing independent football.
If they lose another, or if say Washington and Oregon just went to the Big Ten, Arizona State, and Utah are gone.
Yeah, they're going to go to the Big 12,
or vice versa.
So that's why you got to load up. If I'm them, I load up all those schools. So I'm excited about it. And so look, I thought it was an interesting thing because if they had stayed in the Pac-12, you had an auto bid on the line, right? And I thought it would be easier without USC and UCLA to get to the playoff, but clearly more money with the TV contract playing a huge role. And then also I know Dion wanted to get into Florida and Texas recruiting, which will help that with them playing UCF and like 30 Texas schools. So there's that, but
so who's the protected rival now? Since now that the Big 12 is going to be, too big to have round robin, obviously, who's the protected rivalry for Colorado in the Big 12?
I think they might try to force BYU until Utah comes. They might pull a Pac-12 and be like, hey, we're going to give you BYU, even though there's not a big history there. But in my opinion, it should be. That
makes a lot of sense.
But they've been playing. They haven't played BYU that often. They've played Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. All those schools for a long fucking time. Yeah. So I'm probably forgetting Kansas. Yeah. So I don't know.
Who of those teams doesn't have a good season? Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma
is
State.
Not gonna
that's
have,
what it is. Yeah. That's what you end it with there. Colorado and Oklahoma State because they don't have Bedlam anymore.
Yeah. That could work.
So
it's forced, but it might be the best of
those are touching states. But that's a border battle.
It's a border battle, and it's it's not that forced because they've been playing for like 100 fucking years. Like the BYU one's forced because I think they haven't played that many times.
Yeah, I guess. I just don't see Oklahoma State and Colorado as a big rivalry. Granted, I'm Mr. East Coast bias on this pod, so maybe I just don't see that as like two fan bases that hate each other. So it's a little forced, but hey, that's going to happen with expansion.
Oklahoma State, Colorado is their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th most played team all time. 20 and 26 all time. Colorado has the lead. It's a decent rivalry, decent matchup, competitive.
Yeah, it's better than. I actually enjoy BYU, Colorado, but I want Utah to come in too. So I don't want them I want the Holy War the final week of the season every fucking year. All right, I want BYU, Utah. So don't.
Make that happen.
You got to keep that as a flex for BYU until they add Utah.
Yeah.
Will the Pac-12 be around in 5 years, Patty C?
That is very tough to predict. I don't know.
Some form or fashion, yes. I think they will expand and grab other teams. So
that name means too much to just drop.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll swallow they'll take the entire Mountain West. It'll be, if it's Washington State that holds on to the Pac-12 name on either that or the conference itself. I don't know if it could exist without any of the member schools, being part of it. But maybe if the conference itself just wanted to exist, Mountain West could just rebrand itself into the Pac-12 and, gain status and probably gain money.
Potentially. But so in the chat, they're saying, who's the mystery team? Colby said would be most likely Oregon, Washington, or UConn. Says Noah there, but I would also throw out Memphis. Memphis is one that I think that he visited, but it wasn't official. Memphis is one that is intriguing because of the recruiting grounds, and I think just like UCF coming in there, I think we're talking ACC. I think Florida State and Miami are sitting around saying, "Hey, in a couple of years, when that new contract goes into, I think in 26." UCF is going to be making more money than they will. So the fact that you could then go in to Florida and recruit decently, UCF, you see it already. since they've joined. UCF's recruiting is way better than it was previously because they're in the Power 5. And who knows, man? The new Big 12 is going to be a lot of fun, though. Subscribe to the Big 12 Experience, hosted by Ryan McIntyre and company.
Hello. They're hyped right now.
And I'm sure you're going to have to do a separate pod with them to talk about this in more depth. But this is the ACC preview, damn it. So let's get back to the conference that Phil Steele ranks number 4 this year, ahead of the Big 12.
Oh man, crazy.
Nice plug.
Look, Phil's coming on the show next week, by the way, guys. But before we get to all that, I want to tell you that the ACC College Football Conference Preview on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Sports Gambling Podcast Patreon. Yes, do your part in the war against corporate gambling. All right, and sign up for the SGPN Patreon. All right, a ton of exclusive content, contests, and merch just for our patrons, plus a monthly SGP Stories podcast. Oh shit! You throw Patty C behind a mic and give him a few Molsons, you have no idea what fucking stories are going to come out. All right,
sign me up.
Look, it's an ad-free, uncensored show highlighting the best stories from decades and decades of being degens and bozos and everything. So there's even a Discord channel for the Patreons. So come on. The Sports Gambling Podcast Patreon is a great way to score exclusive perks and support SGPN. SportsGamblingPodcast.com/Patreon. That's SportsGamblingPodcast.com/Patreon. All right, folks, we are back on the ACC College Football Conference Preview. It's great to be in. This is a great sign because we're so close to the season. You know, when we get to the conference previews, this is our first one. We're close, man. We're less than 30 days. Less than 30 days from week 0. Let's fucking go. So with that, let me play a little music here. It is time to talk about the Atlantic Coast Conference. All right. The rich history of the ACC. Clemson, recently national champions. Florida State won 14? Last year without 13, right? Last year without a playoff. So it's a little phony, but I mean they won the championship. But
prior to that, what was it? 99 Florida State, then 93 Florida State, and 80 Clemson, or
90 Georgia Tech. Don't you forget about the Yellow Jackets. Buzz, sting.
You got to include all Miamis now that they're a part of the ACC.
That's true. Even though they're in the Big East, then we're going to talk all about it. But let's start with the ACC because I mean, I'm intrigued. NC Nick, you're a diehard ACC fan.
That's
you
right.
will watch those boring ass Boston College, Virginia Tech games that I guess they gave us the Matt Ryan game, but shout out to Amari Walker, says less than 30 days from week 0. Let's fucking go. Woo.
I don't know about you guys, but man, just looking at the over-unders, I like a lot of these in the ACC. And not just because I follow the ACC very closely, but I think there's just a lot of juicy over-unders here, team totals, future bets here. But okay, go ahead if you want to jump into a team by team.
Yeah, we're gonna start with the worst team and we'll end with the best. The lowest over/under is the Virginia Cavaliers. Whew. Tony Elliott, the NASCAR driver, him and Stockstill, those 2 NASCAR driver coaches in college football. Tony Elliott. 3.5 wins is the total here. Patty C, you are our Virginia Cavalier fan here, so I would like for you to talk about why you think they're going to smash the over. Because you look at the schedule, so there's 8 conference games because the ACC is a bunch of cowards, but they play a one of these terrible neutral site games that are not neutral. Like if you just play this in Knoxville, it's better for college football. Yeah, it's a one-off. It's not a home and home. You're playing in Nashville against Tennessee as your 9th Power 5 game.
This is like the neutral site game that does nothing for anyone.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. The 10th Power 5, you play 10 Power 5s this year, is the renewed rivalry as you head to College Park, formerly Byrd Stadium, to take on the Maryland Terrapins. And then you play the team that perhaps should have won the Sun Belt in JMU. And your 12th game is an FCS playoff team that went a couple of rounds in the FCS playoffs. Mike London, former UVA head coach, now the head coach of the William and Mary Tribe. This schedule's fucking brutal. This is the first year with no divisions. We got to talk about that. No divisions in the ACC. So they avoid Clemson They avoid NC. No, they get NC State. Who do they get?
Florida State.
Florida State. Wow. So even with that, you would think that's great news.
I do not think this schedule is brutal, dude.
It's not. It's not a brutal schedule. I mean,
this is a shitty schedule.
Really, I just feel like William and Mary is like better than almost like they're like a top 10 team in the FCS.
They're a good FCS team, but
and then you add in JMU. You're not playing there's no ULMs on the schedule besides Boston College.
That's true.
And so
if you're gonna include, if you say that what FCS team is, you don't want to get a good one, but it's still an FCS team. Like, a lot of schools don't have that.
Like I think if you threw
you
threw William and Mary in like the CUSA or MAC, they'd probably go to a bowl.
Maybe.
Look, out of conference is really tough. You got 2 Power 5, a really good Sun Belt team, and then a good FCS team, which is William and Mary is capable of beating UVA. So out of conference is tough. In conference, I think, it's very manageable to have Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech and Boston College because they're all 3 winnable games too on your schedule. So I count 5 winnable games on the schedule. How many will UVA be favored in? Maybe only 1 or 2.
I mean, William and Mary beat Charlotte by 17 last year, maybe even more. I think it was 17, maybe 24, something like that. They beat an FBS last year. They lose. Look, Virginia loses Brennan Armstrong. They lose Fentrell Cypress, their best defensive. They lost a few defensive players that are starting elsewhere as we've been previewing teams.
All the receivers are gone.
Yeah. So
I mean, just think about last couple of years, they had really good groups of receivers, and now it's a bunch of people I've never heard of.
Billy Kemp was pretty dynamic. Where'd he go?
Nebraska. I thought I was about to. If you had asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said Virginia might be the worst Power 5. But now, after what's going on at Northwestern, you got to say, okay, I feel like they're not going to be the worst Power 5. But I feel very good about the under here.
Very good. I totally agree. I mean, talk about a bet that I like right off the bat. And, one more thing about UVA in that roster, I think they might have the worst offensive line in the ACC. So, and Tony Muskett coming in at quarterback from the FCS ranks, question marks there. I think he's solid, but he's not going to wow you. He's not going to win games by himself. So, I think the under here is looking really nice. I mean, I guess UVA won 3 games a year ago. And 2 of the games got canceled.
And they almost beat Miami. It went to 4 overtimes. They only lost by 2.
14-12.
Brennan Armstrong, system quarterback, couldn't thrive without Robert and I
think he couldn't thrive because the offensive line was horrible.
That didn't help either. Like Nick said, 2 games canceled, still 3 wins, and those 2 games were winnable. I don't know if Coastal was winnable, but Virginia Tech
who did they beat last year?
Last year they beat Richmond, Old Dominion, so 2 shitty teams, and Georgia Tech. Like you said, they only lost to North Carolina by 3. They lost to Miami by 2 and 4 overtimes.
Syracuse by 2.
Syracuse by 2.
Yeah, but there's no Syracuse on the schedule this year.
There's a lot of shitty teams on the schedule, though.
I mean, you got to figure Cristobal in year 2 will be better than year 1.
Syracuse is Boston College, so there is that on the schedule. I'm going to say, look,
I love the under. I'll lock this up.
I'm going to lock it up with you, and I think it might be on the Lock podcast as well.
I think things can only if you're talking about coaches that are going to get better in year 2. You had Tony Elliott, a first-year coach, right? There's a big learning curve there. You had Des Kitchings, a first-year coordinator. So I mean, on any level. So
there's no guarantee they get better in year 2.
There's no
trends would suggest that you
got from a talent perspective. I don't think they're as talented as the roster last year.
Sure, I just think this is not a very hard schedule to me. Look, I'm a JMU guy through and through. I hope we whoop them by 50 points. That's what I'm praying for, right? Yeah. But we played one common opponent last year, and UVA kept it closer against Louisville than we did. Okay,
who cares about that though? You didn't have the fucking quarterback.
That's a factor.
But comparing the scores,
all right.
I would favor JMU by 7 in that game.
Okay, that's fair, but that's a winnable game. But what I'm saying is, okay, UVA, you guys are making them out to be terrible. Close losses to good teams. Close loss to UNC last year. A close loss, and I guess you can't say Miami, but talented teams, right? And so they're playing these talented teams that's usually you don't. If you're getting blown out, that's one thing. But if you're able to keep it close, then year 2, those close losses might eke out into a couple close wins. And I think 3.5 is pretty low for this schedule. I think they get to 4. I think they get
Really?
4. I don't see 5.
I
don't
I
see-
actually don't even see them favorite. Like they'll be favored in William and Mary. That's the only game I got them favored in.
I mean,
Georgia Tech at home.
I
Virginia
think
Tech
Georgia
at home.
Tech though did a great job in the portal. I think they're a lot more talented than Georgia Tech was a year ago. So I think Georgia Tech is better than Virginia right now.
It's possible. UVA though hasn't had like seriously super terrible 2-win season in a long time though. They're still the state flagship.
well,
of a
buckle
pretty
up and get
talented
ready
state.
for it, Patty.
Yeah.
C.
Yeah, it could happen. I'm not saying it can't. I just think you guys are assuming the worst is going to happen in every week.
I actually will not rule out 0-12. I will not rule out 0-12. We will see. Let's jump on over to the second worst win total. That is the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Obviously, they play Clemson in the rivalry game, and they also get Georgia in the rivalry game. So that's always brutal.
Yeah.
They also, for some reason, played a neutral site game, although it's still in Atlanta against Louisville, where Louisville fans will probably travel to that and probably have more fans than or probably be 50-50. But so they burned one of their own home games, and their other home games in conference are Syracuse and Boston College and North Carolina, who they've actually kind of had Carolina's number the past couple of years. The win total I'm seeing is what, 3.5?
Oh, it's 4.5.
No,
4.5.
4.5.
4.5.
4.5. I'm sorry. Yeah, 4.5.
They
You're
were
right.
what 5-7 last year. A decent win in overtime against a good Duke team.
It should be noted too that 5-7. So Brent Pry as head coach was 4-4. Jeff Collins as head coach was 1-4.
Yeah, and no, not Brent Pry, Brent Key.
Brent
Key,
Yeah,
I
sorry.
always
Yeah.
screw that up. I'm sorry. And also Jeff Collins was 1-3. But you know, for Key to step in and go 4-4, I mean, that team could have quit on him, and they didn't. So you know, and to Colby's point earlier, they bring back, you know, they bring back a decent amount of players, and they hit the portal pretty hard. It might come down to the quarterback Haynes King, the A&M transfer. He didn't look very great. You know, last year, only 55% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns to 6 picks. Was that just the bad Texas A&M offense? Can he look better at GT? We'll see.
They got Chris Winkie as the OC, and Potsy 600 says missing the triple option at Georgia Tech. Very true. You know, they should have went for Paul Johnson, but yeah, you look at the schedule, and this is another one. 10 Power 5s. So as much as we give them shit, Virginia, the shittier schools in the ACC have been loading up on the Power 5s because Georgia and Ole Miss as the 2 non-con games, Power 5, absolutely fucking brutal. And then their other non-conference game is Bowling Green and Scotty Loeffler, who did make a bowl a season ago, but it went 6-7. And then South Carolina State, the Bulldogs, who were in the Celebration Bowl just 2 years ago.
That could be considered an actual tough FCS game.
Yeah. Buddy Pugh, longtime head coach of the Bulldogs of South Carolina State. Look, I have wins factored in against South Carolina State. I got a win factored in against Bowling Green, even though they lost to a MAC school the last time they played one. But that's 2 wins. Boston College is in Atlanta. North Carolina's in Atlanta. I feel like they'll get one of those as a 3rd win. Syracuse is in Atlanta. I could see 4 wins here, but it's 4.5.
And UVA on the road. That's very winnable.
However, I still think, gosh, this is right on the number. I think Vegas nailed it.
Yeah, this one.
I think they're going to be either 4-8 or 5-7. I think if I had to guess, I lean 4-8.
Yeah.
Just because I think Boston College or Syracuse could beat them. I think that's like a true 50-50 game. I don't think like there's a true edge to Georgia Tech. And if I'm giving them both of those and the Virginia game, to be honest, I mean, I think Georgia Tech's talent is better than Virginia's right now, but it is in Charlottesville.
Oh, like that matters.
Yeah. I'm just saying they could lose it.
Makes it a little
True.
harder, but not much.
But at the same time, I feel like Georgia Tech's played Miami well. They've played North Carolina well over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
They could win those games, but I will lean towards the under, but I don't feel good about it. How about you, Nick?
I'm going to lean the over, actually. I do agree. I think this is one of the tougher teams to pick in the ACC just due to some of that roster turnover. And you have a quasi new head coach who only coached half of last year. So there are some question marks here. I think they can get to 5, though. I mean, you laid out some of the potential wins. Don't feel great about it, but I'm going to lean over, actually.
I can see it. I was actually kind of all over the place on this one. At first, I thought over, but as we're recording this right now, I'm changing. I'm pulling a Benedict because I'm like, I just can't give them Boston College, Virginia, and Syracuse 100%. You know, as much as I think they could go 3-0 there, I just can't. I can't say they're gonna. Yeah. So I think you got to lean.
You know
under.
what makes this team confusing is 5 wins last year and beating some okay teams. Pitt,
they beat North Carolina back-to-back seasons.
Yeah, North Carolina, Virginia Tech's not a good team, but they beat them. But all those games were super close wins. So you're like, all right, you know, they eked out some wins there, and then all their losses were crushing blowouts. Almost all their losses. So it's like, were they actually a shitty team that just lucked up a few times last year? That's kind of like I think they're going in the right direction, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I put them. Like they could even make a bowl if they could pull one upset. Let's say they beat Miami or North Carolina, then I think you could say they beat South Carolina State, Bowling Green. That'd be 3 wins. Then Boston College 4, Virginia 5, and Syracuse 6. You could see a path to a 6-6 season. I do like what they did in the portal. I thought they got a lot better in the portal. I just can't trust it yet. I need to see Brent Key do it. I'm gonna go under.
This is a team that should be way better than this.
Yeah. What happened to the days when George O'Leary and Bobby Ross had them fucking Paul Johnson had them rolling? Let's go. All right, let's move to the next school in the list here for lowest win total. And that is the Virginia Tech Hokies, sitting at a cool 5 wins. The Hokies, are you fucking kidding me? What has happened? But I guess there's Brent Pryce first year, but man, you look at a season ago, they were not. Now, obviously, they had the final game of the season canceled, so bettors probably rejoiced, as they probably didn't have to pay money there, or at least get their money back. But they won. They beat Liberty by 1, and that was kind of it of the good teams they beat. Boston College by 17, but Boston College was terrible last year, and then Wofford by 20, and that was it. They got their ass whooped in a few games too. Mainly like the Carolina game, 41-10. West Virginia beat them by 23. West Virginia wasn't great. They lost to a bad Old Dominion team, and they lost to Georgia Tech. Man, I mean,
they lost 3 games at home last year, which is I mean, Beamer would have never lost 3 games at home in one season.
Yeah.
And that offense was just awful last year. The Grant Wells experiment did not work. I mean, they only ran for over 1,200 yards, second worst in the ACC. The passing was second worst in the league also. So the offense needs to play a whole lot better. Is drones the answer, the transfer?
You can't get much worse at passing the football. So
I think he's an improvement, but he's only thrown 23 balls on the college level. So he's very inexperienced also.
You know why he's an improvement, in my opinion? And this goes back to like when we host the USFL.
At least he has legs, right?
Dual threat, man. Dude, simplify your offense. Like when you're struggling, your defense wasn't even that bad last year. So like if you can just not turn the ball over and just get a few more first downs, and dictate the tempo of the game, that can really help you. They were active in the portal trying to help out the skill positions. They were so bad at wide receiver a year ago. They went out and landed the receiver Jalen Lane, who had that 98-yard touchdown against Miami for Middle Tennessee. He's got some speed. They also got the receiver from Jennings from Old Dominion, and Old Dominion beat them a year ago. So,
and they opened up this year at home versus ODU.
Yeah, and I know the chat was just talking about this game. I mean, ODU's won 2 of 3 against Virginia Tech, so it is a little dangerous, but ODU got raided in the portal. So I fully expect this to be a win. Virginia Tech does have 10 Power 5s. Once again, the basement of the ACC doing it big because they're playing Purdue and Rutgers, if you want to consider them Power 5s. So ODU I see as a win. Patty C?
You would think so, but again, couldn't get it done last year, and I don't know. Tyler Bowen, the offensive coordinator, came over from Jacksonville State or Jacksonville Jaguars in 2022 last year. So year 2 on the job here. Is he going to improve? Do we know much about their identity? I don't know what this team offers offensively. And so, I obviously you have Pry and apparently Bud Foster still working with them behind the scenes, although he kind of lost a step toward the end. So I don't know. I just don't think this team has much to offer. And then, but I will say having Grant Wells back, although he's not going to start. He's not going to start. Yeah.
Jones is going to start.
It looks bad. It looks bad. They might lose to ODU.
The schedule's interesting though, because I do think they beat ODU, and even though those Power Fives, it's at home against Purdue and at Rutgers.
No FCS.
Yeah,
no FCS. The Purdue and Rutgers, and then at Marshall.
Those are all winnable games.
Yeah, they could be 4-0 if they're.
I don't think they're
not Virginia Tech.
I really don't think they'll be 4-0.
I seriously doubt it too.
If you look at their 5 games in September, I have them at 2 and 3.
I think so.
I have them at
1 and 4. Really?
I have them at 1 and 3.
1 and
4. Yeah, 1 and 4.
You think they're going to beat ODU? Then you think between hosting Purdue and then going to Rutgers and Marshall, they're going to lose all 3 of those?
I just think those other teams are a lot better than them.
I think they might get somebody.
Rutgers is the one. Rutgers is the one that I have faith in. Like, maybe they're not as. So I'm taking a chance by saying I think Rutgers could be a bowl team this year. That is the one that if Virginia Tech's going to get a second win, I think it's there. I don't think they're going to win at Marshall. I think Marshall's just a flat out better team. Marshall's got guys. You watch Rasheen Ali and you're like, oh, okay. Sure. And remember, they never normally play at Marshall. That place is going to be on fire for that game. Purdue, I just feel like Purdue's a better team too right now. They bring in Hudson Card. They got guys. To me, like, I get it. Maybe you can talk me into the fact it's at Lane, but I just think Purdue is going to be a better
but it's
team
also
right now.
Very early in the year with the brand new head coach, brand new system. So take that, but all right. So 2 and 3, 1 and 4. Then if you're looking, so after 5 games in September, they only have 3 in October. I think I only have them winning 1 of those.
So they're at Florida State, then home to Wake. They get a bye and a Thursday night against Syracuse. I'll give that one. That's Thursday night football back in Blacksburg. They should play more of those.
A bye.
Yeah,
that's nice.
So that would be the 3rd win for me. I mean, I guess I think Wake. You guys have Wake as a win?
No, I hadn't beating Syracuse. That was my 1 win.
Okay,
but Wake at home it could be a win. It's not like a slam dunk. Demon Deacons are going to win for sure. But then looking at November, I only have 1 win there also, and that's probably the finale at UVA because they do have UVA's number. So
and they could beat Boston College. Well, here's how you can play this out. Hafley could get fired in November. Right. So if that was to happen, maybe you can talk me into it, but I'm with you. I think I would take Boston College by like a field goal right now if I had to. I'll give them the Virginia game. I'll give them the Syracuse game. I'll give them the ODU game, maybe even the Rutgers game.
I have 4 wins. I could see a 5th. A 5th would be a push.
I can't see bowling.
I can't get to 6. That's why I feel pretty good about an under with Virginia Tech also. Not as good as I felt with UVA, but still pretty damn good about this under.
I agree. And let me ask you this. We talked about the best case scenario. Give me the worst case scenario.
For Virginia Tech?
Is it 1-11?
No.
2 wins. Give ODU and somebody else.
ODU
and UVA. They win the first and the last game.
That's true. It's true.
I feel like this team is just too talented. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm pulling up the conference composite right now, and they're not in the top 50. Got to wait for this.
Bud Foster told us on this very show last year. He was like, he kind of revealed his hand of like, it's going to take some time.
This isn't the Virginia Tech football we know because they struggled running the ball. They were second last in the ACC in sacks. They were last in interceptions. I mean, Virginia Tech football should be strong defense, turnovers, strong run game. They need to find an identity here.
56th in total defense last year. Again, for a team that is built on defense, not getting it done. 120 in total offense. Average defense, terrible offense. And it's an average league and a poor. But like you said, the non-conference games are just hard enough. Well, they'll probably lose a few of those. So I don't think they're bowling. I think the under.
Hold on, but hear me out. If we're playing the worst case scenario at 2-10, is he fired or do they give him a 3rd year?
That depends on how good Shane Beamer is looking and whether he is open to being pulled from South Carolina.
I don't think they can offer the money that South Carolina can.
They most certainly can't. It would have to
be a Virginia Tech thing, playing where or coaching where his dad coached.
Potsy says another thing too is they were heavily penalized last year, so they need to get better at that. Coaching. They lost their offensive line coach, who was their highest paid assistant, to I think he left to Notre Dame. So there was that
similar situation though. First year as it was at Virginia, first year head coach, first year offensive coordinator. So maybe they figure out a lot of stuff in the offseason and put it together, and then things are drastically better in year two. The talent's just not there. 52 in the conference national composite. They're just not there yet.
Yeah. All right, let's hop on over to the next one because we go to Boston College, who I think has, short of Louisville, I love this Boston College schedule, which has me full of optimism. If you haven't listened to our Boston College preview, it is out there and available to listen to. But they don't play it. They only play 8 Power 5s. They do not play a Power 5 in the non-con. Now they do play Holy Cross, which is a really fucking good FCS. But their other non-con games are Northern Illinois, UConn, and Army. Army, once again, the triple option rules make to me like Army. I thought if this game was played last year, I'd be like, Army's going to beat them. Well, now with the rule changes, I think I'm very nervous on all the service academies essentially. So I kind of love this schedule. The fact that their road games are.
Hold on. What do you think their record is in that out of conference schedule? 2-2, 3-1.
No, I think.
Don't tell me 4-0.
3-1 or 4-0. They lost to UConn last year,
right?
So and Holy Cross could get them, but
Northern Illinois potentially could, and Army could too potentially.
Northern Illinois,
could go 0-4. They could go 0-4.
Northern Illinois 3-9 last year.
Yeah, but Rocky Lombardi's been in college 75 years, and he's
still
back.
There?
Yeah,
Good
he's back. So
I do like Emmett Moorhead, and if you look, he had a very good, first year as a starter or half year because when Jerkovic went down, but he had a higher completion percentage and a better touchdown interception ratio than Jerkovic.
Hear me out though; they'll be favored in all 4 of those games.
However, they will lose one.
I guess give me 3-1, but I could see either 2-2 or 3-1, but I guess give me 3-1.
I could see 3-1 or 4-0.
I could see 2-2 or 3-1. I don't trust Boston College. They went 3-9 last year. They sucked. Army's been a damn good team. They got to go to West Point. That's probably a loss.
But the rule changes, man. I just don't know anymore. I agree. Like I said, if it was last year, I would be like, I'll like 10.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean? But we don't know a lot about Army yet, so.
3802 saying, "Give me Holy Cross." I do think that's a sneaky game. Sneaky game. They're both in Boston.
UConn's a sneaky game.
Yeah. They could go 0-4. They could go 0-4 of those.
They could be 4-0.
Hafley's on the hot seat. This is a big year for him. I'm going to say 3-1, maybe even 4-0. They'll be, if we're looking at what they're favored, I think they're going to be favored in all 4 games because they're all
but it's Boston College.
Yes, very true. But here's what I do like: they get Florida State. Now they're not going to beat Florida State probably 99 times out of 100, but they do get them the week before they play Clemson, right? I enjoy that because it is a look ahead spot.
Good spot.
They get Louisville, which I have them losing to Louisville, but at least it's in the first month of the season. Jeff Brohm, brand new head coach at Louisville. I think if you want to play Louisville, you want to get them in September. And their other road games, by the way, at Georgia Tech, at Syracuse. Come on, guys. This schedule's genius.
Even at Pitt isn't that daunting.
Yeah, at Pitt on a Thursday night where Phil Jerkovic is the Pitt starting quarterback. So it's the Jerkovic Bowl. He was, started at BC the past 2 years. And I love the fact they get Miami on November 24th. This schedule's genius. They don't play Clemson. They do get Florida State, but they don't play Clemson, NC State, North Carolina, or Wake Forest, all winning teams.
That's true, man. This schedule is
I'm on the over.
Just good enough for me to flip to over.
I don't even think it's a crazy idea, like to put some fucking money, just a little bit, sprinkle $50 on them to be in the ACC Championship.
To be in the ACC Championship, not to win, right?
Well, you never know. With Louisville's schedule and with Boston College schedule, if there's enough carnage at the top of the ACC, that could be your ACC Championship.
No. Somebody's giving Colby crazy pills, but
well,
I'm with you on the over. I think they get to 6. Maybe like everything breaks their way and Moorhead really looks good. 7 tops.
Dude, get out of here. I can talk you into, hear me out here. Northern Illinois, win. Holy Cross, win. They lose to Florida State. They lose to Louisville. Virginia, win. Army, win. That's 4-2 at the bye. Out of the bye, they beat Georgia Tech 5-2. UConn 6-2. Syracuse 7-2. Virginia Tech 8-2. And then you upset Miami the final game of the season. You could paint a 9-3 season
is
here.
Matty Ice back in college? Is our guy Steve Logan the offensive coordinator again?
Well, here's the thing. The ACC is kind of like the MAC now. If you take
Nick's
away
about
Clemson,
to leave the show after the statement like that.
Well, it's just all these
I'm
teams.
finding a new podcast to join.
Well, here's the thing. The Coastal was
I have entered
the MAC.
transfer portal.
The Coastal was the MAC, 7 different champions in 7 years. And if you're honest about it, the rest of the league outside of Clemson and Florida State were the exact same level as all those other teams. So it's 10 completely equal teams. And if they're having a great year, just like we saw Northern Illinois 2 years ago in the MAC championship and last year 3-9, maybe Boston College figures a couple things out.
Oh, I like it. I like the over. I like
the over just because the schedule sucks. Virginia Tech and Miami in November, and Miami coming to Chestnut Hill on
the day after Thanksgiving is fucking perfect. They're not going to win that game.
No.
Oh, let's go. I feel pretty good about that. Over. NC Nick, do you feel like that's almost lock worthy or?
No, I'm going to go over. I feel decent about it, but not lock worthy just because I need to see, Boston College. Boston College can always pull a Boston College and just like get unlucky, get injured, and then just lose games they shouldn't lose, like to Northern Illinois or something.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we move to the Orangemen of Syracuse. Dino Babers, baby. Look, low key thinking about this because they're basically going to keep with the Robert Anai offense. They have the quarterback coach that Anai employed running it. The Shredder's back. They do lose Sean Tucker. They do lose a bunch of production. They still have Aranda Gadsden Jr. at the wide receiver spot, who's a fucking stud.
Dude, he had in 2021, he had 2 catches for 24 yards. Talking about coming out of nowhere for last year, catching 61 balls for almost 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's stepping up.
You brought in Anai, and he's like, wait, who's this guy you got here? But one of the low key great things I think they did was they hired Rocky Long as the defensive coordinator. Yes, Rocky Long, the legend, the creator of the 3-3-5 defense, coming into the
where he coached entirely in the Southwest before, pretty much.
Yeah,
and
but he's got a connection to Babers.
Okay,
he's got a connection to Babers. So
talent on defense, they got raided in the portal, especially on defense. So that could be tough.
True, but to me, you have one of the best defensive coordinators. It is year 1 for him, but I was pretty amazed that they were able to get Rocky Long, because even last year, Rocky Long was the DC of New Mexico for his former player, Danny Gonzalez. Their defense was good. It was their offense that was terrible. Their defense was good. So the Qs, their win total is what? Sitting at a cool 6.5. Dino, relax.
They won 7 last year.
Well, I'll tell you this. You got to like the start to the season, just like last year when they started out 6-0. They get the Colgate Raiders. They're not very good in the FCS. They get Western Michigan, who's with the brand new head coach at the Carrier Dome or whatever the fuck they're calling it. And then they're at Purdue, brand new head coach. Then they're home to Army, brand new system. The first 4 games are genius. Absolutely genius. 3-1.
3-1?
3-1.
I mean, this is the same.
Maybe 4-0.
Syracuse that started off last year 6-0.
and I feel like we were kind of on that. I think we were on that. I at least myself.
Granted, they their next 7 games they went 1-6.
Yeah, I was on that exactly. I think if you go back to the Syracuse schedule or the episode a year ago, I think I projected all of that. I said they're going to start out. They're going to start out. I think I had them at 5-1, not 6-0. But I was like, give me the over on Qs because the beginning of their schedule is genius.
So they could be 4-0 too. I'm going to lean to 3-1. Maybe they drop that game at Purdue. But it's that's a winnable game. Purdue's playing all these ACC teams. I don't know why, but but after that Army game, things that level of difficulty on that schedule does go up a notch or 2.
Well, yeah, but they've played. Remember the last time Clemson went up to the Carrier Dome, Syracuse missed a field goal to send the game to overtime, and then I think the time before that they beat them at the Carrier Dome there. Still taking Clemson to win that.
Yeah, you have to, but you're right. The fact that
Syracuse fucks with Clemson for some reason, even in Clemson. Remember last year they almost lost.
Yeah.
But give me 3-2 through the month of September.
Why is it that they fuck with Clemson?
I don't know.
Maybe just like a similar
something about Syracuse that fucks with Clemson.
Yeah. I don't know. They could be. Hear me out. They could be. 2-2. I guess you guys. I don't know if we've gone through the next 3 games after the.
No, we've gone through September and then October 7th at North Carolina and then at Florida State. I got them losing all of those.
Yeah.
So I got them 3-3 at the bye week.
Well, I think we had them losing to Virginia Tech too, and it's not even a full bye week; it's a short bye week because they play on a Thursday.
You'd have them at what 4-3 then at the bye week, or
no? I have them beating Colgate, Western Michigan, and Army.
Okay, so 3-4 at the bye.
Okay, yeah.
That sounds about right.
They get a bye, then they lose at Virginia Tech, so 3-5. Home on this is the Friday night game. It's another weekday game. This is at Yankee Stadium. Oh no. Right? No. That's later.
Yeah, that's the following week.
Yeah. So, I mean, they can beat BC. That's a 50-50 game. I got no fucking idea who's winning that game. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'll give that to Syracuse just based on last year.
Okay.
I would say the last 4 games might be. I mean, Pitt is better than Syracuse, but 3 out of the last 4 games are probably 50-50 matchups. Moneyline
Max in the chat saying, "I love it, Patty. See, we need an AAC or an ACC MAC challenge to see who's better." Coming at you, Nick.
Right. Talking about the number 4 best conference according to Phil Steele.
Lexington Steele has them the last rated conference.
What did Western Michigan do last year? We could have the MAC beating a precious ACC.
Well, Western Michigan.
That happened to Georgia Tech. Yeah, that's right. And then Northern Illinois beat Georgia Tech 2 years ago.
Yeah, but Western Michigan beat Pitt the year that Pitt played for the ACC Championship.
That's right.
So, look, then they have the Yankee Stadium game, the 100 years or 150 years of college football, or whatever the fuck it is. Yankee Stadium. But you know what sucks about that is that would normally be a home game, and they're moving that to Yankee Stadium.
That hurts.
And I favor Pitt there. They're at Georgia.
Do you hate it? It isn't a baseball stadium.
No, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah. I love it because they're paying homage to the sport and the history of it.
But to your point, that means they only have 3 home ACC games.
Yeah, and they never do this to the good schools. They do this to the bad schools, which is ridiculous.
Like Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Northwestern is doing this also in the Big Ten. They're playing that game at Wrigley because
it would have been a home game for them.
Yeah. I'm on the under, guys. I think they're probably going to be 6-6.
That's exactly where I had them. Don't feel great about it, but yeah, it's sitting at 6.5. I think they're probably a little bit worse than last year, just because they do lose the OC, and like I said, they got rated in the portal. They lost guys to Ohio State, LSU, Texas Tech. I mean, when Ohio State and LSU come knocking on your door, that means those players were really good. So even though the DC Rocky Long has a tremendous track record, I think the defense takes a step back, at least in year 1, until he can get some more talent in there.
What are you doing, Patty C?
Yeah, I'm on the under, and I don't know if we're calling out our locks already. Yeah, this is a lock for me.
Is it really? Oh, wow.
It is. I think they were good. I respect them, and obviously Shredder, I think, is a better quarterback than a lot of people, And it looks like the coordinator, who is it, Jason Beck, has been with the Nye for a long time. So maybe
people were raving about him even when he was at UVA.
Yeah, he's been with the Nye since 2013, so about 10 years with him. Should prep him up for this season pretty well to take over. But
one comment about sorry to cut you off, Patty. Why would Marshall join the MAC? They were already in the MAC, and the Sun Belt has definitely eclipsed the MAC. So I talk a little trash about to Noah there. But sorry, Patty, I cut you off.
Oh no. But that would be interesting. Max Sunbelt, that's a challenge that actually should happen.
Fuck them up, dude.
It would still be fun though.
Yeah.
Look, I think that you could be looking at a really tough losing streak, kind of right off the bat, that could derail this season completely. If Purdue's a loss, say Army's better than we think, and they have 2 straight losses there, Clemson at North Carolina, at Florida State, and like we said, at Virginia Tech on a Thursday night, that could be a 6-game losing streak and be 2-8. And then they're not recovering from that. So I think it's going to be tough sledding for them, and getting to 7 wins, not happening.
I like it. So is this your first lock, Patty C?
This is my first lock.
Me and NC Nick have both locked up the Virginia schools on the under. Those are our only locks right now.
That's our home. That's where we grew up.
Yeah, and we're going.
I'll lock Virginia Tech on the under with you.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Patty C locking up the Hokies under 5 as well. Let's jump on over and talk about NC State with Robert Anai. He bounced from Syracuse down to Raleigh, North Carolina. NC Nick, let me know if you bang into him at the Harris Teeter or whatever the fuck your grocery stores are called. And
so much anger coming from
yeah, it was NC State. You know what I mean? Like Robert and I, you're a Mike Leach guy. We love you, but what are you doing going to the enemy? This is an interesting one. 6.5. I actually think losing Tim Beck and getting Robert and I is a huge bump.
For sure.
I think it's a huge bump from an offensive standpoint. So I'm kind of like and I actually think Brennan Armstrong's better than Devin Leary. I said this a year ago. In my opinion,
he was better 2 years ago. I mean, look at Armstrong's numbers from 2 years ago.
2 and 3 years ago.
The non-con, let's talk about it because 9 Power 5s because Notre Dame is coming to Carter Finley, but it's week 2. Remember Notre Dame, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, and Sam Hartman. They do play at the Wrench week 1. Interesting road game against Jim Mora Jr. I think it's a sneaky game.
I agree.
It's a sneaky game. And then Marshall coming to town October 7th. More Marshall talk as they play 2 ACC teams. And then the Keydets of VMI, who are under brand new head coach Danny Rocco, who came over from the Delaware Blue Hens. So non-con, not 10 Power 5. So you got to like that. I think they're going to go, honestly, I think they're probably going to go 4-0 in the non-con.
You think they beat Notre Dame week 2?
I think they're better than Notre Dame right now.
I think you can go conservative and say 3-1, even though NC State.
This is me saying
NC
it
State
too.
did beat Notre Dame last time the Irish came down to Raleigh.
Yeah,
it happened to be in a hurricane, but
well, there's a strong chance there'll be a hurricane in September 9th.
It's always possible.
Yeah. Here's my logic on this. You telling me Notre Dame's got a guy that's never been an offensive coordinator, right? Never been an offensive coordinator. So
true. They're getting him in a good spot.
They also, to me, it's week 2 and
it's going to be lit.
Yeah. I favor NC State by like a field goal, right? NC State's got good talent. I think the NC State offense is going to be a lot better.
You might be right.
The defense loses a lot, only returning 5 starters, but I tend to trust Doran. Doran's going to have a solid defense.
Yeah, and 3802 saying even with Hartman, see, I love Sam Hartman, but I also wonder how much of a system that is. Notre Dame doesn't have Tim Brown and Rocket Ishmael wide receiver, so I
Hartman's going to be fine at Notre Dame.
I think he'll be
good quarterback.
I think he'll be good, but I don't think he's going to be putting up the numbers he put up at Wake Forest because I don't think they have the receivers that they had, and they're not running that slow mesh offense. So
still,
speaking of receivers, did you guys see the NC State the transfer they got last week?
No, I don't think I did.
A late transfer, Bradley Rosner from Rice had
I did see that.
45 catches, 876 yards, and 10 touchdowns a year ago. They were a little weak at the receiver position too because they had a couple guys transfer out or graduate. I think one guy transferred, one guy graduated. So that was a big late get that might have kind of went under the radar. I think I expect him to start and play pretty well here. But let me tell you this, okay? Last 3 years, NC State has won 8, 9, and 8 games in each year, and in Doran's 10 seasons, he's been over 6.5 in 8 of them. Only one of those years where he was less than that was his first year. So 6.5. Give me the over all day. Now I did see a lot of juice on that over, minus 145. I saw, but if we're not even talking about that, I don't care. I'm still going over and lock it up.
I feel pretty damn good about the over too. When I think about it, I'm a little scared of the UConn game. Because I think Moore is going to have them playing better than people think. But when I look, I think they'll be like, I would take them to beat Notre Dame. 50-50 game, though. VMI is not going to be good this year in year 1. Also a service academy, so the new rules could be challenging for them. Virginia, I think, is a win. Louisville, the fact you get Louisville and Clemson, who I think are your contenders, you don't get Florida State. If anything, you get Louisville and Clemson, North Carolina, who are all the top like 5 or 6 favored in Carter Finley, which is huge.
You get Clemson off of a bye, and Clemson will be on the second end of a back-to-back road at Miami, then at NC State.
And let's talk about the road schedule for NC State: at UConn, at Virginia, at Duke, at Wake, and at Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech's the only tough environment there, but they're not very good. So
And they may be by the second to last game of the season completely, you know, giving up on the season.
I'm on the over too, as much as I
Also,
hate
like,
to say it.
When it's at 6.5, this is when you want to jump on NC State. You want to fade NC State like last year when they were getting, you know, all this love from like the national media. And that last year, I think the over under was at like 8.5, right? So last year was a perfect time to fade a team that, you know, does kind of, you know, not play the best when the spotlight's on them. But when the spotlight isn't on them, that's when you want to jump back on NC State. So, yeah, over all day.
3802 saying, Colby, come on. Hartman versus Wolfpack's defense versus Armstrong and Notre Dame's defense. Sure, I think Notre Dame's defense is better than NC State's, but I also think NC State's offense is going to be a lot better than Notre Dame's with Robert and I.
That's
NC
true.
State's had a good defense for Dorn's whole tenure. It's not like NC State's defense is shit.
They've been putting out pros left and right. Look at what they've been drafted. So
I mean, Armstrong put up fantastic numbers with an eye. If he's anything like the quarterback he was, you know, when he was with an eye, then that offense is going to explode. You combine it with that defense.
Yeah.
You know, that
and a good home environment. They have a good home environment.
The home opener against Notre Dame is going to be super lit. They should probably put College Game Day there. They won't put it in North Carolina 2 weeks in a row, but that's a huge environment that could springboard them to maybe an ACC championship type of season.
I'm on
is
the
this
over
finally
too.
the year?
I got to be honest. I think I got to lock it. I don't see worse than 7 wins here. Like you could talk me into like 9 or 10 wins here. So
I don't know about all that, but I think they
just being disrespected.
I just don't feel like
I think get the 8 or so.
I just don't feel like I just feel like there's not a for sure loss. Now they'll probably lose to either Notre Dame or Clemson.
I would think so.
Right, but they're also both in Carter Finley. So like
UNC,
it's a
home.
nice schedule. It's a nice schedule.
Yeah.
They don't play Florida State. So
it's a great schedule.
Yeah. Give me the over, and I will join you on the lock there as well. Let's move along. Another 6.5 out there with the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. No more Sam Hartman, but I don't give a damn. I don't even need to look any further. Dave Clawson's their head coach. Give me the over. I feel very good about the over.
Dude, I saw this at 6 last week. At 6, I felt really good about it. At 6.5, because I felt like, you know, really the floor was 6 wins. You know, so if anything, I would only push and get my money back. At 6.5, I don't feel as good. I'm on the over, but I'm probably not going to lock it up.
Well, their non-con is this. They get their 9th power, or they play 10 power 5s. So Elon, who was an FCS playoff team a year ago, but I think Wake will be fine in that one.
Yeah.
Matthew McKay is now gone. They're starting quarterback of Elon. Vandy coming in. Vandy's playing a little bit. They turned a little bit of a corner. That's a little sneakier of a game, especially knowing Griffiths doesn't have that many starts. But I still favor Wake to get that done. At Old Dominion, I think Wake will win that game. I feel good about that. I'll lay 11. And then the other non-con game is week 12 against at Notre Dame, which is probably going to be a loss. Hartman senior night in South Bend against his boys.
Ooh, interesting.
So I got him going 3-1 in the non-con, guys. How about you?
Yeah. The
Vandy game is huge.
I
think that's if they're going to hit an over, they need to beat Vandy at home.
And they beat him in Nashville last year by what? By 20. So I still favor.
You got
Wake.
You got to 3-1. I agree.
Yeah. So then
is ODU a sneaky game?
I think ODU got raided in the portal, so I expect them to be having a new
3-0 coming out the gate.
3-0, and then they're home to Georgia Tech, so I think they'll be 4-0. If we did the Georgia Tech thing, I said they'll probably lose to Wake. 4-0, but then they get the bye week, and then they're at Clemson, which is going to be a loss. Sneaky back-to-back away that we gave to Wake, but I they need to avoid that upset there.
They do have 2 sets of back-to-back aways.
That also hurts too, but that would be my 5th win for them against Wake or against Virginia Tech. Pitt homecoming. I favor Pitt, but you know Narduzzi's known to lose a game like this.
Between Virginia and the second end of a back-to-back at Virginia Tech and then Pitt the following week, there's 1 loss in those 2 games.
Right. You're probably right.
So that would put me at 5-2, right? 5-2, correct?
Yeah.
They've had Florida State's number lately. I think they've won 3 in a row or 4 in a row against Florida State. The question is, does Florida State come into Winston-Salem and get that dub?
I have FSU winning it this year.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised if they don't.
I think it's a game. I think it's like, I mean, I guess I'll favor FSU, but if Griffiths comes out because you got to remember Newman looked great before Hartman. This is not. I feel like it's the offense, not the. Newman didn't even make the NFL. You know what I mean? So, okay, I'll join you there on Florida State. Then at Duke
when you think about Florida State, like they squeaked by Oklahoma at the end of the year. You know, is this team really the number 3 team in the country coming into the season?
I have a hard time just automatically saying Florida State's going to beat Wake Forest when Clawson's owned them.
Right.
Yeah.
On paper, Florida State looks tremendous, but
Yeah.
obviously games aren't won on paper.
Yeah. Once the hype wears off, what's the reality going to be? But I'll give it to Florida State.
Yeah, let's just say Florida State. So that would be 5-3. Now Thursday night at Duke, which I think is critical for both teams' overs.
For sure.
This game is a huge game. So Duke beat them last year, right?
Duke did beat them last year.
Elko knows he worked with Clawson for a long time. I will favor Duke because of that. And the fact that Duke has Riley Leonard back where Hartman's gone.
That's right.
But I don't feel very good about that.
It's a 50-50 game. There's,
Five and
there's a
four.
lot of 50-50 games on this week.
5-4, and then they get NC State, which is going to be another. Like I feel like they've had NC State's number lately, right?
Especially in Winston-Salem, yeah.
They'll probably get one of 2 between Duke and NC State.
That's
okay,
fair.
so that would be 6, and then if they beat Syracuse, that would be 7. Give me the over.
Yeah.
Give me the over. I'm not locking it though.
Yeah, I'm not going to lock it either. But there you go. Blanton saying Wake at Duke on a weeknight, November 2nd might be there. There we go, Blanton. NC Nick might be there.
Hit me up because I'll probably be there too.
There we go.
Wait, isn't this supposed to be the season-ending rivalry? Why are we not having
the
Wake and
ACC
Duke?
doesn't know what they're doing. All of a sudden, what did they force? What's that?
Syracuse,
Florida State is their rival, protected rival. Tough historic game there. All right, let's jump on over to the next one. The Pitt Panthers, who I am actually pretty bullish on. I actually want to talk about this for a second. Pitt is plus 2,000 to win the ACC. I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked if they're in the ACC Championship. That's all I'll say. So
here's another one where I saw the line move because a couple weeks ago I saw 6.5. Now it was minus 165. So if you felt really good at 6.5, you probably feel pretty good at 7. With probably at better odds. But right off the top, I mean, they've been winning a lot more than 6 or 7 games the last few years. So right off the bat, not even looking at who's returning and schedule, I'm thinking over.
But they do play 11 Power Fives. So when you play 11 Power Fives,
it's a brutal schedule.
Yeah, I mean, their non-con is Wofford, who sucks, but Cincinnati at West Virginia and then at Notre Dame as their now not in consecutive weeks because the Notre Dame one's scattered. But
that's tough.
But
what's their record there? 2-2 non-con.
No, I got them
3-1.
Look, I think they have the most underrated quarterback in college in the ACC.
Are you telling me that they're going to go into WVU and
yes,
get the dub?
I think so. I mean,
they're
Sorry,
the better
Mac.
team, but just situationally
That's
speaking.
true. And that game hasn't happened in Morgantown in like 15 years.
And that game last year, any team could have won that.
That is true.
I don't think.
Yeah.
You just chalk that up as a win. I mean, look, I'm the ACC guy. I wish I could say, yeah, they're going to go into Morgantown and whip their ass, but chances are that game's going to come down to the wire.
Well, hear me out here. I think they can beat Notre Dame. So I'm going to say 3-1. I wouldn't be. I mean, I think they could go 4-0 because, dude, I think their physicality, they can bang with Notre Dame. Notre Dame's won recently on their physicality. I think Pitt can line up and bang with them, and I think Phil Jerkovic a little revenge. Remember, Notre Dame passed on him as a starting quarterback. So I'm just saying 3-1 in the non-con.
I'm gonna say 2-2. Actually,
start. It's Cry Me a River. You shouldn't have any chip on your shoulder.
No, but he was public about that.
Yeah,
he was public about
salty
that.
about it.
I'm 2-2 in the non-con. What about
really?
you?
I might be 1-3. I think the Cincinnati game is a coin flip. I think you guys.
They're beating Cincinnati at home.
Everyone thinks that Emory Jones just sucks ass. The guy's passed for 65% for his career. He's also tailor-made for a Scott Satterfield system. We saw what Scott Satterfield can do when he has an experienced quarterback.
So say it, 1-3.
I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna say 2-2.
Okay, I got them 3-1. I got them beating North Carolina. So I got Wofford win, Cincinnati win. Either West Virginia or Notre Dame is a win. They're going to lose one. They'll win one. North Carolina, September 23rd. North Carolina don't want to bang. This is a loss. NC
Agreed.
Nick, what are you doing here?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
in Pittsburgh for sure.
So I got them winning that. Then they head to Lane. I think that's a dub because I don't think I don't think Virginia Tech's ready for that. Then they get a bye. They're home to Louisville. This is one I think they could win because they bang and Brohm is more finesse, but I could also see Brohm beating him.
Yeah, I think they probably go 1-1 in the Louisville Wake Forest games. So for me, I think after that at Wake Forest, I'm at 5-2.
I'm at basically 6. Well, if I give the Notre Dame game a win and the loss at West Virginia, then I have them at 2, 4, 5, 6-2. 6-2. Patty C, what do you have them after that Notre Dame game?
After the Notre Dame game,
Yeah.
I got them at 5-3.
5-3 here.
Okay. Then they're hosting Florida State. Florida State's got to go to Pittsburgh in November. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. That's a win. That is a win.
It could be.
It's not a win. That's a loss. Florida
Really?
State supposed to be.
Dude, I got Pitt. I feel good about Pitt being
I don't
Florida
actually
State.
feel great about that either.
And then Syracuse.
Jordan Travis runs all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, Pitt will fuck you up. You know what I mean? Like that. I just feel like that little cha-cha-cha shit that Mike Norvell does. I think it's a bad match.
Man,
I think
I'm
it's a
looking
bad
at
match.
this and I see a floor of 7-5.
Really?
So-
I think they could go undefeated in November.
I said a floor of 7-5.
Oh, sorry. I misread that.
So I think they win at least 8. So I do like the over. I feel pretty good about it.
Dude, they could be in the ACC Championship. Plus 900, Matt Pulley says to make the championship game. Should I take it? Why not?
That's
I
not bad.
like it.
That's
I
not
like
bad.
it. They
But-
don't play Clemson. Who else? They did want to play Virginia, but okay. They don't play Virginia. They don't play Clemson. Who else are they missing out
But
on?
they still get
NC
Virginia Tech,
State.
BC, and Syracuse. So I mean,
Yeah.
so it's a pretty decent schedule, even out of conference being that
Do you-
hard.
Do you think
Man.
losing a Banakanda hurts?
I
No,
think
they
Rodney
really-
Hammond's ready to step up. I
Yeah.
mean, look, he's not as good as
They just
my
replaced
Anaconda,
these
but-
running backs. The guy
Right.
before him was a stud. You know what I mean? Like they always they always got guys, and I think the big thing Keaton Slovis never fit in Narduzzi quarterbacks. You know, Phil Jerkovic is more athletic than people realize. I think Phil Jerkovic is a perfect fit. Now he's got to stay healthy. That's how you lose this. Is he gets injured because he gets injured fucking every year. I feel like,
right.
but Jerkovic can play, and I think he's the most underrated quarterback in the ACC.
Give me the over.
Yeah.
Lock it up.
Yeah, I'll join you on that.
I want to.
Not every conference is like this where I have so many locks, but for some reason I saw these ACC numbers and I was like, man, a lot of these look very attractive.
Yeah.
Last 4 years, 8-5, 6-5 in the COVID year, 11-3, 9-4.
6-5, but they only played 10 regular season games, right?
They played 11. It looks like. I don't think they were in a bowl, but so I don't know. 11-3, 9-4. So it does seem like 7-5 should be the floor. Maybe you guys have convinced me. I was leaning under, but I think I'm going to lean over now.
Well, here's what we'll know, and this is like who's the only team that bangs in the ACC now? Now that like you look at it, I would say maybe you could say NC State, but they're going air raid, and I would say Clemson. Clemson bangs, Pitt bangs, and then everyone else is kind of finesse.
Florida State.
Virginia
I
Tech.
don't think they bang.
Virginia Tech wants
They had
to
the
bang.
Lions to do it this year.
Yeah, it's true. We'll see. All right, let's shift over. But before we shift over, I want to tell you that the College Football Experience ACC season preview is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, the NFL season's right around the corner, and Underdog Pick'em is a great way to get down on NFL player props. And look, it's available in a ton of different markets. Plus, there are plenty of ways to win with their daily MLB contest. And of course, make sure you enter their Best Ball Mania, where the first place winner gets $1 million. Head on over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use that promo code SGPN for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. All right. I know we were planning on doing the CUSA one. That one's going to have to wait a week. We're going all in on ACC.
The way it should be.
Yes, we're gonna
with the best.
We're gonna talk about now the Miami Hurricanes, which I'm. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I forgot about Duke. I didn't see Duke's win total there. So Duke 6.5 is the win total. So I definitely went out of sequence there. Duke coming off a great first year with Mike Elko. I know me and NC Nick previewed this on an episode before. So Duke opens the season. Look, what better time to get Clemson than when they're stalling a new offense? I know that Clemson's probably going to win this game, but I'm saying if you told me I had to play Clemson, I'd want to get them week 1
for sure.
But we all have them losing that game, correct?
Yeah, unfortunately.
0-1, and then they get the Leopards of Lafayette. That is a win. And now this Northwestern game, even though they've owned Northwestern, this is an easy win here. Yeah. So 2-1, and then they go to the Wrench. I'm scared. Nick, I want your guess on this one here. I could totally see this is a look ahead spot because they're hosting Notre Dame. Mora is going to get somebody. He's brought in talent. And remember, they had a 4-star quarterback tear his ACL in the first fucking half of the season opener a year ago. And they still went to a bowl. I think UConn's going to be better than people think.
UConn solid. This is not an easy win, but look, Duke has what? How many? We got 18 returning starters.
True.
On the experience chart, 3rd best in the country. I think that's enough to give me the W here, but I am worried about this game. I think it's going to be like 31-27 or something. It's going to be maybe crazy, maybe some fireworks towards the end, but I have Duke winning it.
Potsy saying Duke is so hard to predict in the chat. Look, how do you feel about the Notre Dame game? Elko against Hartman 1-0 so far.
That's true. I mean, it's another Duke's schedule this year is very, very tough. I missed the Coastal. Let's just say I've missed the Coastal. Name the best teams in the ACC. They're on Duke's schedule.
Yeah.
Clemson,
with the exception to Virginia.
Look, they play Clemson, they play NC State, they play Florida State, they play Louisville, they play Wake, they play UNC. They play Pitt. That's a tough fucking schedule.
And that is why I can tell you, I know we're going game by game, but I lean under here just because look, okay, let's say they get Lafayette, Northwestern, UConn. They lose to Clemson. They lose to Notre Dame. They're 3-2 at the bye. The NC State game, we've already given it to NC State, right? That's still winnable, but I got them 3-3, and then they're at Florida State, 3-4. Then they're at Louisville,
4-4.
You got them winning this. I don't, but okay, even with that. So then they have the Wake game, which I gave it to Duke. So for me, that's only win 4 for me against Wake. I will say that they probably get either Carolina or Pitt as a fifth win.
The 7th win. Give me the over.
No, I think they're 6-6. I will take the under on Duke.
7-5 last year, and the schedule was not nearly as tough.
No, Duke was 8-4.
Yeah.
Season.
Oh, 8-4. Yeah, you're right. 8-4.
And won the bowl game. Whipped UCF.
Yeah, nice win there. But that doesn't count as part of the win total. 8-4. And look, lost at Georgia Tech. A close loss against North Carolina. Maybe I should give that some actual credit.
No, they should have won that game up. They should have won that game. No, I think they're going to be 6-6, 7-5. I think the number's right. I think they're going to be right around there. I think they're still going to be a tough out. I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled an upset against, one of the schools I said is a win. But I also think some of the wins I gave them, like the Wake Forest game, like the UConn game, could be tricky. So I say 6-6.
7 is tough.
Obviously, I'm a Duke fan, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But this is not one of my locks. I'm not going to bet it personally, but give me the over.
How many of these games are they 7-point dogs or more in? Clemson, Notre Dame, NC State?
Florida State probably.
Florida State, you don't think
NC State will probably be right around it.
Yeah, at home that might not be 7.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I kind of want to. I've got too many overs though, so I got to give someone an under. Duke, you're the unlucky recipient.
I'm on the under 2 with the Duke Blue Devils. Let's move along to the Miami Hurricanes. You want to like last year? This shit bothers me. All right, last year I finally go on the over because they win the transfer portal. They bring in the Broyles guy, Josh Gaddis. Right, I thought they did a great job in the portal, and I thought, man, their schedule sucked last year. Right. I've notoriously go under on Miami and Texas. Okay. Well, last year I'm like, okay, you know what? I can't even build a case for Miami going under. Well, they got 5-7, and they probably should have been 4-8.
Dude, look at their wins. Look at their wins.
Their wins. Oh, we just talked about this with CJ Sullivan. We're going to see that episode drop in the coming days, but their wins where Bethune-Cookman, who is the worst FCS school in all of FCS, right? Southern Miss without their starting quarterback, who got knocked out in the first quarter, right? That's their best win, by the way. Southern Miss without their starting quarterback. Their other win is Virginia Tech by 6, a terrible Virginia Tech team, and then Virginia in 4 overtimes, and then Georgia Tech. I mean, this team. Not only that, they got their ass whooped. They lost to Florida State by 42 points. Right? It was 42-0 at one point in that game. Right? They lost to Clemson by 30. They lost to Pitt by 26. They lost to Duke by 24. They lost to Middle Tennessee by 14. They got their ass whooped last year. So I don't know why it's at 7.5. I actually think this year's schedule is harder than last year's. Now, I don't think it's a hard schedule, but I think it's harder than last year's. Yeah. Let's get into it because week 1, love this game. The Battle of Miami. Miami, Ohio, Miami, Florida. Look, I'll say this. I'm going to take Miami to win this game, but if you come in and play like you did against Middle Tennessee, Miami, Ohio will beat you because Miami, Ohio is just as good as Middle Tennessee. All right. They're very similar, that Brett Gabbert is the starting quarterback, very experienced, just like Chase Cunningham was a year ago. If you don't have your shit together, they will beat you.
You know what Miami, Ohio doesn't have on Friday, September 1st is heat and humidity down in Miami. That's
True.
a tough game for Ohio school in the 1st of September. So
I'm going Hurricane.
Yeah.
Hurricane? I bet it gets pretty hot in August in Ohio too, but probably not Miami
like
hot. Yeah.
Well, week 2, Road Rash Face, aka Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher come to town. Strip club scene in Miami is pretty big, from what I understand. Bobby Petrino, just lock up
be in heaven.
Lock up the motor scooters. This is a win for A&M.
This
is a huge game.
This too.
Yeah, I think A&M might fuck them up.
Well, I would have thought that in College Station last year, and that was not the case.
Well, they didn't have Bobby Petrino last year, though.
It's true.
Yeah,
early for Petrino's system, maybe they're still working out kinks, but still.
And as much as you look at that score from a year ago, I don't believe Miami ever had the lead. So
yeah,
it was.
Still, it's not like they weren't in position to compete or
sure.
What, 17-9.
But A&M did the same with UMass. It was like 17-3 or something to UMass.
That's true. These are two of the most underperforming teams. Texas A&M at number 4 in the talent composite nationally. Miami number 12. This should be a marquee matchup. Right?
Well, we'll be top 10 because it's September 9th, and that's all a bunch of bullshit. But I got them 1-1. Patty C, what do you got them at?
Yeah, 1-1.
Nick,
same
1-1. Then they're home to Bethune-Cookman. Glad to have them on the schedule. That's 2-2, and then
70-13 last year in that one. Yeah.
And now they head to the link.
EJ Warner.
EJ Warner. Hilarious game here. No, 3-1 at the bye week and optimism.
Yeah.
Optimism,
sure.
I think.
Sure.
And then they host Georgia Tech.
Off the bye.
I know Georgia Tech's kind of given them some fits over the years, but I think they get this one.
I think so.
I think they're 4-1.
And the Miami bandwagon is rolling.
And boy, does it come crashing down, starting right here. Are they capable of beating North Carolina? Yes, because North Carolina, you never know when they throw a lemon out there. But I favor North Carolina, especially in Chapel Hill, by, say, a field goal.
That's what it was last year, 27-24.
Yeah. And that was in Miami. So I got North Carolina winning that. You?
Yeah.
Nick?
Yes, agreed.
Okay, so that puts them at 4-2. Then they're home to Clemson. That's a loss. Remember, Clemson won. Didn't they? Clemson win 58-0 there once.
Yeah, that's what got Al Golden, or was it?
I think it was Golden.
Golden,
right? Yeah. So that
maybe
puts
Randy Shannon, one of those guys.
That's the third loss there. Then they're home to Virginia, who for some strange reason I looked up like Virginia in the past 10 or 15 years, or I guess since Miami's joined the ACC. Virginia gives them a hard. Virginia was beat them last year. Terrible Virginia. I'm giving this one to Miami. But historically, it's been a tough out for Miami when they play Virginia.
Yeah, they have given them a harder time, but just based on the talent.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
dude, I think they're like 500 against Virginia since joining the ACC.
Yeah, it defies any kind of explanation. It's culturally two very different schools. I actually don't know about Miami as a school. I think it's private. It's probably pretty preppy down there. It's probably pretty similar to UVA. But as football programs go, very different identities. Even still, it's been a tough out for Miami, but I'm going to give it to the Hurricanes.
And Noah in the chat's right. Well, wasn't UVA Miami last year a below 10-10 rock fight? Yeah, it went to 4 overtimes and somehow. How do you go to that many overtimes? I only score that many points. The under still hit in 4 overtimes. That's fucking incredible.
So 5-3 we all have entering November.
Yeah, and believe it or not, this is where the rumblings, if Mario Cristobal gets fired, to me, because I think they lose at NC State.
Now you know what, they have actually kind of owned NC State recently, but not this year. They lose this one.
Yep.
Yeah. So that puts us at 4-4, right?
5-4. Yeah.
Then they're at Florida State. I cannot take Miami after the way they got fucking destroyed by Florida State.
But again, the year prior, I feel like wasn't Miami in 2020 dominating.
When they had Diaz, yeah.
Let me double check that. But it's taking.
I think Florida State's a different team now, though, than they were.
They won 52-10 2 years ago.
Yeah, but still,
things can change a lot in 1 year. Is my point.
Florida State's the most experienced team in the nation. It ain't happening this year.
I don't think so either.
So I got them losing both of those, and this is where I worry about morale. And I told you this. I got Jeff Brohm coming into the Hard Rock where no one goes to these fucking games. And I got Jeff Brohm beating the Miami Hurricanes. Great spot for Louisville right after the back-to-back away.
He's a way better coach than Cristobal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then the BC game, I already alluded to this. Miami quits. That's why you've seen their
give me
quitters.
1-1 in those last.
That's fair. That'd be fair. Maybe that's still 6-6 though. But if they win both of them, that's 7-5. You're still on the under. Give me the under all day.
No, I think this is lockable here because
I'm with you. Lock it up.
Yeah, I will lock this up because I just did this preview with CJ Sullivan, right? And I really don't see them winning in November. But even if they were to get one of those, build me a case for 8 wins here. What are the 8 wins?
They could knock out
Tyler Van Dyke is back, right?
Yeah.
So that's a important piece to take a step forward.
I thought you were a Jake Garcia guy.
I am.
He's gone.
They should have Missouri. Shouldn't have let him get away.
They could start all 5-0.
I don't. Yeah, I guess
they could.
What makes you think they could beat A&M if they couldn't beat A&M last year at 5-7?
It was a close game at A&M last year,
but that really wasn't close if you watched it. Like that was like Miami was just kicking field goals. That was hilarious. That's once again back to my Cristobal. Miami, like it's one of those. It's almost like the USFL coach Ray Horton. Miami needed to go for a score, and they kept settling for field goals. And it was like, what are you doing, dude? Yeah. You're gonna lose this fucking game because you're stupid coaching. And we've seen this with Cristobal at Oregon. So,
let me throw some stats at you here. First downs, 27 for Miami, 16 for A&M. Total yards, 392.
That's what I'm saying. No. But they needed to go for it. Like,
yeah, they should have, but still that's dominant. It's 392 to 264 in terms of total yards. Kind of 34, 20 to 25, 20, 40 in time of possession. Kind of should have kicked their ass based on those stats.
And here's another thing for you. I'm going to make this prediction here. There'll be more Texas A&M fans at the game than Miami.
That I would bet on. Yeah. So I think it's going to be really hard to get to 8. I think the under is a nice play here.
Now Miami rolls early in the season. The fans show up early in the season while the hype is built over the summer. They think they're going to the national championship. They start 1-0. The fans will be there for this game. They could win this game. But even still, I think 6-6 is what we have, Matt. This even a win there would put them at 7-5. I think I'm not locking it, but I have the under as well.
I'm locking it.
I'm locking with you, Colby. Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's move along to the Louisville Cardinals, which if you've listened to me since February, you know where I stand on this team and this genius schedule. Even though it's 11 Power 5s, absolutely genius. Playing 3 NFL stadiums, you only really have
3 road games.
No, even at that, like there's only 1 real road game.
Real on a campus. That's right.
Yeah, there's 1 game on campus, and that's at NC State. This is fucking genius.
It's incredible.
I mean, technically, NC State's at the fairgrounds, about 3 miles north of campus. So
yeah,
technically,
but still, they like the students all show up there. Like the other games,
right?
You get Georgia Tech and Mercedes-Benz, where I think Louisville will have a 50-50, if not more. By the way, fan turnout. Louisville will have a bigger fan turnout against Indiana in Lucas Oil, and the Pitt game. Okay, like they never pack that thing. And then you have at Miami, which I actually think Louisville fans might be more, especially after where they get Miami is perfect.
It's really nice you play both Virginia schools, Boston College and Georgia Tech.
Yes, and it's also nice to play Indiana.
Sure.
Like, okay.
And Murray State.
Yeah, Murray State's a bad FCS too. So like, I really love this schedule, guys. Like the fact you get and look, if it's a brand new head coach, Jeff Brohm, in a new system, what do you want in September? No really good teams. Well, guess what? Georgia Tech, not very good. Murray State, not very good. Indiana, not very good. Boston College, not very good. Now, September 29th, you do get NC State. But here's my thing. They can lose that game and be fine because all the other big schools play each other. So the Notre Dame game, they can lose and be fine because that's not a conference game. All they really have to do is beat either NC State or Pitt. And even if they lose both, I still think there's a decent shot that they're in the ACC championship because the other team is probably going to have 2 losses. And since they don't play Florida State, I just think it's a genius schedule.
Or Clemson.
Yeah. Right. They don't play Florida State or Clemson or North Carolina. They're going to be in the ACC championship.
You know what? The game
plus 1,000 to win the ACC. Go.
That's I like that. I like it. It's good juice. At NC State, that's probably the game that determines which of these 2 teams goes to the. I mean, assuming if Florida State doesn't have the year that we think, if they're not the team, which is
Florida State plays at Clemson though.
Yeah, but even
but
still,
Florida State could still be the second best team. I mean, what if that's the only game in conference they lose?
True, but Florida State also has to play to me a much harder route. So I think it's more likely that they get a second loss, and then
maybe that game at Pitt.
Well, and then it comes down to points, because they don't play each other. And
look,
the fact that Louisville plays all these shitty teams.
I like Louisville, and Louisville could very well start 4-0, but then they could drop their next 4. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying they could.
I love the over here. Look, I think they're going to beat Georgia Tech. I think they're going to beat Murray State. I think they're going to beat Indiana. I think they're going to beat Boston College. They're going to be 4-0. NC State, to me, NC State is out of these 3 games, NC State, Notre Dame, and Pitt. I think they'll go 1-2, but it wouldn't shock me if they go 2-1. Right. So I think they'll be sitting there at 5-2 at the bye. I would favor them against Duke. Now they could still lose to Duke, but I would favor them. So I think 6-2, and then I think they could win out in the ACC before they host Kentucky. I just don't see. Build me a case of them 7-5.
Well, okay.
They don't have a 3-year starter at quarterback and a coach that has been working with him for years, custom made for that system. So you got to figure early on there's going to be some working out the kinks. So that Georgia Tech,
they do have that quarterback.
Wait,
Jeff Brohm does. Yeah, Plummer was with Brohm for 3 years.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
and he brought in some offensive linemen from Purdue too. That's what I'm saying. I think this team is more talented than the Purdue team a year ago that went to the Big Ten championship. From a roster standpoint, I think Brohm comes into a better roster, and there's not as much competition in the Big Ten as there are in the ACC. And then with this schedule, Louisville's in the ACC championship game.
I'm not going that far. I'm going to lean over. I think at the end of the day, I think Louisville probably ends up 8-4 or 9-3, just because they did bring in a lot of pieces from the portal. The coaching got upgraded, and the schedule, to Colby's point, is very nice. I'm going to go over, but it's not one of my locks.
I'm locking it because look, who's the best 4 teams over the past few years in the, well, I guess you can't say Florida State for the past few years, but we know Clemson and Florida State are the 2 favorites.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Guess who's the 3rd favorite? It's North Carolina. And guess who is the 4th favorite that probably should be the 3rd favorite? It's Wake Forest. They don't play any of those.
I mentioned at least one team from the Coastal that is not happy about their new schedule. Well, here's a team from the Atlantic, which is thrilled with their new schedule, not having Clemson and Florida State on it.
Yeah.
I think you're jumping the gun. Yes, the schedule is good. It's helpful, but I think you're expecting too much in year 1 from Jeff Brohm. I think they could lose against Georgia Tech, and
Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Okay,
right out the gate.
They could lose to Murray State too, guys.
Look,
who did Georgia Tech beat last year again? Rattle that off.
North Carolina, right? They got North Carolina. And
they
Pitt.
beat Duke. They beat Pitt, Duke, and North Carolina.
Okay, but if you want to say that, then I also feel like Louisville is capable of beating NC State, Notre Dame, and Pitt.
It's true. We don't know.
If anything, I don't even see one for sure loss on the schedule.
I got them dogs in all three of those. I got them dogs against Kentucky, who's been whipping their ass. I think the road trip to Miami could be tricky. I'm taking the under. I'm taking the under.
Let's go. Locking it?
Not locking it.
Oh, coward. All right, let's go to the
It
Tar
would be
Heels.
nice to get a lock battle before we end this pod.
Let's get to the Tar Heels of North Carolina, because if there's one under I do like, besides the other ones I've stated.
You want a lock battle? I'll give you the lock battle. Lock Louisville on the under.
Let's go. Let's go. Where's my?
I hear there's rumors
We're
on
prepared for
the
this.
internet.
Yeah, I was not prepared for this.
I broke my back.
What do you mean by that? You broke?
My back is broken.
Oh man, I don't know where the fuck the lock music is.
Spinal.
I don't know where the. Here we go. Lock battle in one corner. Louisville under 8 wins. He's an idiot. And in my corner, Louisville over 8 wins and winning the national championship. Let's go. All right. No one just walks into the shack and gets a dub. Let's hop on over to the North Carolina Tar Heels. Where okay, here we go. 8 wins is it 8 or 8.5?
8.5, right?
8.5. Get that? No, it's 8. Flat 8. I'm seeing right now.
It came down.
Wait, let me double check that. But
I saw a prognostication today that had UNC winning their first 9 games. I thought that was pretty ridiculous.
I don't think they're going to win their first game.
I'm trying to find it right now on this fucking thing. If the chat could help me here to find, let me just double check this thing. Because Nick, actually, you're the one that put it in the spreadsheet here. So
I did.
Yes, you put it at 8.
It's a fluid situation. Things move.
I can't find it right now though.
Are we looking at any specific book? Do we have any deals going
right now? I'm looking at DK and I just don't. 8. No, flat 8. Flat 8
okay.
at DK.
Last week was 8.5. It's come down a bit.
Dude, this beginning of their schedule is fucking brutal. First off, they're non-con 10 Power 5, South Carolina and Minnesota. And then you have Appalachian State and even pulling the SEC move of the FCS in November. It's Campbell who's been recruiting really well. I mean, let's hop into it.
That's a hard ass 9.
That is a brutal non-conference schedule. I mean, I don't. I mean, they could be 0-4.
They could be 0-4.
Yeah. I think give me 1 and 3, 2.
I am 3-1 out of conference.
Really? Oh, out of conference. Okay. I thought you meant the first 4.
Oh, first 4. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. First 4. I have 2 and 2.
Yeah, I have 2 and 2. I think they 1 and 3. Actually,
certainly possible.
No, I have 1 and 3.
Yeah,
I have 1 and 3.
I don't feel very good about.
I bet they get Minnesota.
I bet they could easily be 0-4 here.
Yeah,
I don't know about easily. Come on, they're still a good team. They still have a Heisman candidate. That might be the first quarterback drafted.
They had a Heisman candidate when he lost to Georgia Tech last year.
The fact
they're
that
not going to go 0-4.
The fact that App State and Minnesota are both at home, they're probably going to get one of those.
But it's after the yeah. Give me 1 and 3.
That's what I got too.
I think South Carolina, App State and Minnesota games, those are new quarterbacks' first ever road trips.
True, but I think Minnesota is tougher than them, and I think Minnesota bangs, and North Carolina's a little pussy team.
Yeah, what is it? Keenan Memorial, not exactly a hornet's nest.
Well, I do have them losing to South Carolina. I think that's a big game as far as this over under. I'll have them beating App, beating Minnesota. Yeah, I hate to say that, and then losing to Pitt 2 and 2. Now this next stretch is pretty damn easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I got them 1 and 3. Now they're home to Syracuse. Okay. 2 and 3.
Home to Miami.
Home to Miami. 3 and 3.
Yeah.
Home to Virginia. 4 and 3.
I got
Georgia
5
Tech,
wins at that point.
Hold on. Let's pause it on Georgia. Georgia Tech has whooped their ass the past 2 years. Do we feel like are we fools to sit there and say North Carolina's just going to walk in to a team that has whooped their ass the past couple of years?
21-17, not an ass.
No, but the year before.
Year before.
21-17, but they were up 17-0. And so Georgia Tech scored 21 unanswered. Year before
was 45-22. So that is a pretty good.
That's what I'm saying. Like the
best thing is that they could, even if you chalk it up as a win, which is a dicey proposition, but they could still win that and the next against Campbell and still not hit an over.
I kind of think they will win. So 4, 5, Campbell's 5. If I gave them App, it'd be 6. They got to hit 8. Give me Duke as even 7. At Clemson's a loss. At NC State's a loss. They're not hitting it. I'm on the under.
I'm on the under, and I like to lock it up also.
Yeah.
I'm close to locking this one.
I'm locking it. They could be 0-4, dude. They really could be fucking 0-4 to start
I just
the season.
think that, especially when I saw it at 8.5, I think I already bet it actually, but 8.5, I think it's really nice. But still, even at 8, like I think best case scenario, UNC's 8-4,
and they lose Phil Longo.
Yeah.
Who's saying the offense is even going to be that really like that explosive?
You know, and although I like Drake May, I think he's a hell of a player. Let me read you his last 4 games. In his last 4 games, he only averaged 227 yards passing a game. Still solid, but nowhere near what he was doing in his first 8 games. His touchdowns, interceptions, 4 touchdowns to 4 interceptions in his last 4 games, and only 57% completion percentage. Now, you know, he put up some really gaudy stats his first 8 games against iffy competition. The schedule got harder. His stats, his play went down. So was he figured out? Was the offense figured out too? I don't know, but I think that has to be like his last, you know, third of the season last year was not very good.
Yeah, and losing Josh Downs and everything. And shout out to Potsy who says this is the first time I've watched these guys and they seem to know their stuff. We do. We live and breathe college football.
Well, 2 of us do.
Yeah. This guy.
You guess which 2? I don't know.
He might have played at JMU, but I mean, this guy clearly locking up the under on Louisville. All right, let's hop on over to Florida State. But I love the under on North Carolina. Florida State Seminoles. Win total at 10. And shout out to Florida State. Like as much as, you know, we've given them trouble or given them a hard time about the guy reading that novel in the stands, that spy novel in the middle of a fucking blowout. Their schedule is pretty fucking brutal this year. And once again, 10 Power 5s, LSU and Florida on the schedule. And also Southern Miss as the 11th game there. And then they do have North Alabama in November too. Classic SEC move. Let's get into it because I think, you know, if you've been listening to us throughout the years or throughout this off season, I have LSU beating Florida State week 1.
And you know, I'm with you.
So the question is,
nope, but that's not, that's a coin flip kind of situation there. So I can't like guarantee a win there. So if I'm a betting man here, which we are, then we're going to be very careful about that.
Well, I'm saying if they lose that game, then you essentially can't afford another loss, so you don't make any money.
And still in September, there's a road trip at Clemson.
Yes.
So that's my problem. But even though I do like Florida State, I think they're a really good team this year. I think you could lose your bet or at least push your bet in September.
I think they will be personally. I think they'll be 2-2 heading into their bye week on September 30th.
Yep.
Now comes a stroke of good fortune with home games against Virginia Tech, Syracuse, and Duke. They're going to go right back to being 5-2 and highly ranked again. They play at Wake. We talked about this. Dave Clawson has owned Florida State. We gave it to Florida State, but I don't feel great about it. And then the very next week, back to back away,
they lose one of those.
They're going to lose one of those.
I agree.
I have them losing to Pitt. I think they beat Miami, they beat North Alabama, and they win at the Swamp. But even that at the Swamp,
that
could
game
be tricky. It's a rivalry game.
Pretty close, you know, all throughout the game last night.
I am on the under. I feel pretty good about it too.
I agree with Blanton.
Yeah.
I think 9-3 is the record here. Best case scenario, probably 10-2. So I feel pretty good about it too. I wasn't going to lock this, you know,
even if
we have so many locks in this conference already.
Yeah.
But even if they beat LSU or Clemson, I still don't think they get to 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they could easily get to 11 if things go right. I mean, you think they were 10-2 last year with the loss, 9-3 last year, I guess. but the blowing it at NC State.
So many backup quarterbacks last year.
They did.
They played like 5 backup quarterbacks. They were like TCU.
Still, they destroyed the whole second half of their schedule. They annihilated everyone except obviously the loss against Clemson, but beat Georgia Tech by 25, beat Miami by 42, beat Syracuse by 35, beat Louisiana by 32.
Yeah, but none of those teams are good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
but they
they only have 2 wins last year against teams with a winning record: Louisville and LSU.
Yeah, LSU SEC West champion.
Sure, but you got Brian Kelly in first game.
Sure, yeah. I'm just saying. Last year they were a legitimately good team, and they lost a game that they should have won against NC State.
But they probably should have lost to Louisville.
Maybe. Either way, I think that 10-2 seems probably what they will do. And
really,
if we're thinking Florida State is the Florida State that they were before, where they're gonna drop a game, you're thinking 9-3 is what they're gonna do.
I think 9-3, 8-4. I wouldn't even be that. I wouldn't even be that shocked. It was I think 9-3 or 8-4.
Yeah, I mean the Oklahoma game gives me pause, but I feel like maybe they're turning the corner. Maybe they're turning the corner and winning the games they're supposed to win. But I don't know. I'm not taking the over. I'm not giving them 11-1.
I can't take the over. There's no way you can build me the case for the over.
Right.
Well, Patty C, what's more realistic, 11 wins or 9 wins?
9.
9.
9.
We're all on the under. Let's do it.
All right, and then we get to the Clemson Tigers, also at 10. Once again, bringing in Garrett Riley as OC. I mean, it's at 10. They do play South Carolina in the non-con at South Carolina revenge game. Remember, Shane Beamer got the best of them last season, so revenge on the mind as they got to go to Columbia the final week of the season. But their other non-con games: Charleston Southern, Buccaneers. That's a dub. Florida Atlantic, Tom Herman, and Notre Dame coming to Clemson. So they do get 10 Power 5s too. I got to give the ACC a little respect here for
time.
Yeah, for their scheduling. But how about this? I don't see 3 losses here. I have them beating Florida State. So, okay, they're at Duke week 1. I think that's a win. It's a sneaky game though. That is one of the sneakier ones. That if you had told me that there'll be an upset. Charleston Southern week 2 is a win. Florida Atlantic week 3 is a win. Florida State, we have that as a win because if this was at Florida State, maybe I would think about it.
Exactly.
I don't see Florida State winning in Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
So I got them 4-0. This is the sneaky one, actually. This is the real sneaky one at Syracuse because for some reason Dino Babers almost beats them every fucking year. But after that, they're home to Wake Forest. They have Wake's number. They've beaten Wake like 1,000 times in a row. Honestly, I probably think they're 6-0 going into the bye.
Yeah, most likely.
I agree.
Yeah.
Then they're at Miami. They'll have more fans in Miami than Miami. They're at NC State back-to-back away. That's the one.
That's a dangerous.
That's
spot.
the one. That's the one they lose.
And if NC State beats them, then mark it down that NC State's in the ACC Championship game.
Wow, and they've never been in the ACC Championship game.
Well,
too.
it is time.
Yeah. Then they get Notre Dame the very next week, but it's in Memorial Stadium. I think they get Notre Dame. Then they get Georgia Tech in the rivalry game. They will win that, and then they're home to North Carolina.
They'll win.
They win that, and then they're at South Carolina, which is a little tricky, but I think it's a revenge
should have
spot.
beaten South Carolina last year.
Yeah, I think they get the best of Carolina. I think honestly, I think you take the over. I think they're going to be like worst case scenario is 10-2, right?
I completely agree. I'm going to lock up Clemson also. I like them this year.
I don't think worst case scenario is 10-3.
I don't think I'm going to lock it. I'm not going to lock it, but because what if Syracuse does get them after the Florida State game?
I'm not buying it.
Dude, Florida State, Notre Dame, and South Carolina on your schedule. That's all. That could be 3 losses.
Notre Dame.
Well, I mean, Clemson's lost three games 2 years in a row now. You know, after that crazy stretch of 4 or 5 years where they hadn't. You know, so if they just duplicate the last couple of years, it would be on the under. But I think they're better this year. I think Klubnik is about to show out, and I think the schedule.
I'm not sure about that.
I like the over here, guys. I like it. I like it a lot.
Locking it. I'm not locking it. I'm not locking, but I will take the over. Another thing is I
hate it, but I'm taking the over.
Yeah, I'm taking the over. I still worry like if the portal is going to catch up. The fact that they never use the portal, I worry about that long term.
So if you want to talk one more thing quick, unit rankings. There's only 2 teams in the country which have a top 5 defensive line, top 5 linebackers, top 5 DBs, according to our guy Phil Steele. If I can give him one more plug, those 2 teams are Clemson and Georgia. So this defense is loaded.
Yeah, and Garrett Riley will get that offense rolling. They have guys, and to me in the ACC also, you don't have a. I just don't.
You have to make that point again. You've made that point like 3 times already. Quit shitting on the ACC. This is the ACC podcast. You already screwed up the graphic by saying coastal. It's the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's not the Atlantic Coastal Conference.
I didn't make the graphic, buddy. We're gonna give Cam a hard time.
Will Shipley, is he going to take a step forward? I know he had started to, become more powerful, finish runs, going forward. He's obviously a dynamic, playmaker, fast, good pass catcher. Is he going to have a breakout year? Because I'm not really sure about Klubnik, to be honest. I'm not sure.
You can't be sure because we haven't seen anything yet. But I just think Riley will open up that offense some. Let's talk about this before. So ACC Championship game. I want your predictions right now. I have Clemson and Louisville in the ACC Championship.
I got Clemson and NC State in the ACC Championship.
So, Clemson.
Oh, man, I hate going. I really have to go chalk. I'm going to go chalk and say Clemson, Florida State in a rematch.
Well, how does that work though? You're going to need points then, right? Because it's going to go down to conference record. Because if Louisville or NC State has the same, they don't play each other, right?
So I think Florida State probably has 2 conference losses, maybe just 1. And I'd have to go through the math and see. I think I had Louisville with maybe 3 conference losses. I think I had Louisville 9-3.
I will say it's a lot more exciting without the Coastal and the Atlantic.
It's
knowing
true.
that you could have like Pitt is another one that I think could end up there.
Let me tell you what is going to really piss you off, especially you, Colby. The fact that it could be, I don't know what the tiebreakers are, but I assume that it is going to be subjective. I think it's going to be based on rankings, right?
Rankings and not points. Because I know some conferences will do like points.
It could be
how much you win by.
I mean, I'm sure there will be tiebreakers.
Well, with NC State and Louisville not playing Florida State, if they just put Florida State in, I'm going to be fucking furious. I'm going to be fucking furious if they do that.
If they're all 1 loss and Florida State gets it.
Yes. Yeah. But
count on that happening.
Hold on. Look, before we get out of here, because look, I know we were supposed to do Conference USA. We're going to push that to next week. We did a trajectory on the school right now. As of right now, the trajectory of the school, and we're going to do a graphic on this on social. Give us a follow on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. But let's rattle through these. Georgia Tech. What do you think the trajectory is on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets? I put them as up. Yes, they didn't get Willie Fritz, who they wanted, but they got Brent Key, who did all right as an interim. And he's a former Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket. And I thought they won the portal. So I thought he's got to be better than Jeff Collins just off what I saw on a small sample size. So I think their trajectory is going up. Patty C?
Too early to tell for me. I think, he's completely unproven, but then again, Jeff Collins hadn't done anything. I'm going to say staying even.
NC Nick?
Originally I put down just because I feel like the Georgia Tech football program is so down compared to what it used to be. But it is a new coach. I think I might have to change that to go with Patty and say just at this point, at this point I need to see more. So I might have to change that.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Syracuse Orangemen. Syracuse Orangemen. I think we all put them at steady. But can we talk about Rocky Long? Maybe convince ourselves a slight up.
No,
you could, but I think Robert and I has been running that show for a long time, or not. Well, his own show.
Yeah.
And so having the new coordinator
Jason
coming
back,
it remains to be seen if he can run his own.
So all of us put steady on Syracuse.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Virginia Cavaliers.
That was easy. Down.
Yeah. Things are bad.
Let's talk about the Virginia Tech Hokies.
No, down.
Things are bad.
They have picked it up a little bit on the recruiting trail in the past month.
Yeah. That was his thing.
They have done that.
He was going to get into the 757 and he has a little bit.
They've picked it up a little bit there. Boston College and Jeff Hafley, big year for Jeff Hafley. as I know Patty C's been lobbying for Bill O'Brien to be the next Boston College head coach. I put steady because I know he's been recruiting better at Boston College, but the wins haven't been showing up.
A little up and down.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict where they're
I put steady. And
we all did. Yeah, we all put steady for that.
All right, now the Pitt Panthers. I originally came into this thinking steady, which I know you guys did, but then I changed it to up because, man, he's been winning so much. If he continues to win like this, I think the program is getting more and more respectable.
That's
so.
True. What about no more Coastal though?
That's true, but Jerkovic
that might negatively affect them, right?
Who's the real wild card that you could see win the ACC? See, I think even my Louisville prediction, I think they could lose to Clemson or Florida State. I could see Pitt actually winning.
Pitt might have
game.
the line play to kind of bang with Clemson a bit.
And if Jerkovic,
comes out bald, could be the. I mean, I know people love Travis at Florida State, but Clemson, we haven't seen Klubnik. You could argue Jerkovic's better than those guys.
Yeah, you usually could.
So I put Pitt as up. Curious your thoughts.
I like that. Yeah. I think there are some that would say that they've hit their ceiling. But I think you're right. I think they might be like where Clemson was when Dabo kind of started getting it rolling. They're winning, they're sneaky winning, and then all of a sudden they take the next step.
Yeah,
is that going to happen? I don't know.
NC State, we all put as steady, but hey, with Tim Beck gone and Robert and I in,
that's true.
I think you could convince me. You could convince me to take a step up.
I think which is with Doran, it's going to be between 7 and 9 wins.
Yeah, you're probably right, but I do think you're right with the Nye. I think that it gives
them
a slight point. Gives them a half win every year.
All right, we're gonna go through the rest of these, but before we do that, I want to tell you that the College Football Experience ACC Season Preview episode is brought to you by Sports Gambling Podcast Patreon. Yes, do your part in the war against corporate gambling and sign up for the SGP Patreon. There are a ton of exclusive content, contests, and merch for our patrons. So check that out. Plus a monthly SGP Stories podcast. You might get Patty C on a few Jaeger bombs telling some great fucking stories.
Let's go.
There is even a Discord channel for patrons. So check it out. Sports Gambling Podcast Patreon is a great way to score exclusive perks and support SGPN. Once again, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. All right, we are back on the College Football Experience ACC. We're doing trajectory right now for the future as of right now today. What we think going forward. So Wake Forest trajectory. I put it as steady, even though I know Dave Clawson I think is the most underrated coach in America.
You can only do so much at Wake Forest, though, right?
But I mean, at least he's got people like I think they've invested more into football, and I think a lot of that is to Dave Clawson's credit.
Yeah.
They get raided in the portal every year, but yet they still win like 8 games, right?
There you go. Steady, steady Eddie, man.
Patty, see, you put it as up.
I think they're going up just because when you think about, wins wise, they've probably hit their ceiling. They're probably never going to be more than 10 wins in a year, Yeah. But as a program, they are gaining respect where they used to be in the basement for a long time. You thought of they had an uphill battle, but now recruits might look at Wake and be like, yeah, that's a place I can go win some games.
Could you compare it to Baylor? I know Baylor growing up was terrible, 90s and 2000s. Now people look at Baylor and say, no, that's a good school.
Yeah, it's a exact comparison.
Okay, perfect. There we go. All right, the Miami Hurricanes. Patty C, you put it as steady. I know Cristobal year 2, you would think, well, he's going to bring in more talent, but
they have sucked for 20 years.
That was the worst first season you could do. That schedule was easy as shit. And you got your ass kicked by a bunch of teams that you had no business getting your ass kicked by.
I don't know why there's hope yet.
So that's why I said down, but obviously you can make the case like Patty C put it as steady that they're going to be a lot more talented in the coming years.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. They've been talented. They've been recruiting well.
Talent really hasn't been their problem.
Yeah. So I put it as down just because I don't buy in. And if anything, they quit on the coach last year. I thought they look like a team that quit.
Man, how bad would it be for Miami if this thing bottoms out? And because Cristobal is the guy, the guy who played for them, he's supposed to be the guy that brings them back to prominence. If that guy can't get it done, well, I guess there's a lot of people that would go to Miami.
Yes.
Lane Kiffin.
Kiffin almost did a year ago. So, I mean, you put it as steady. We'll see. NC Nick, any comments on that one?
No, I agree with you guys.
The Duke Blue Devils and Mike Elko. What a first year! Even though I think they're going to go 6-6, even though I'm saying 6-6, they're going to go down. This hire is fantastic, and I'm actually really optimistic about Duke football. He's been recruiting really well right now.
You know it.
You check out what he's done.
Yeah, so it definitely might be a case where they don't win as many games as last year just because the schedule's so much harder. But that doesn't mean the trajectory is not going up
of the program.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
The Louisville Cardinals. I love this. This is a match made in heaven here.
Yeah.
Brohm, we've already talked about this on previous episodes, but maybe you're new to the show. Brohm was meant to coach Louisville. I mean, this guy is Kentucky through and through. The fan base hasn't been this excited since fucking Purvis Ellison. All right. It's just a match made in heaven to me. Especially getting this schedule year one will only keep them. If he can go to the ACC Championship like I projected, the fan base is going to, and the money, the NIL collective is going to be rolling. So I think this is a for sure up. Petty C.
Yeah, definite up, and it will be interesting to see the fan base lit because my Louisville has always kind of
sleeping giant.
Well, they've seemed like an afterthought. They seem like no one will ever take them seriously, even when they have some. I mean, Petrino leaves them after building them up, and so and then obviously Charlie Strong left them,
and then Petrino comes back and destroys their fucking program.
I just think they finally got a guy who's gonna stay. And he's going to light a fire under that fan base's ass. And once that plays, I remember when they played Miami when they were really good.
That's a new rivalry. You see the Schnellenberger Trophy?
The Schnellenberger Trophy, yeah.
The boots, fucking great.
Right? That was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely great.
They could get good.
Yeah, that trajectory's got to be up. We'll touch base on the final ones here, but before that, I want to tell you that the College Football Experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, the NFL season is right around the corner, and Underdog Pick'em is a great way to get down on a ton of NFL player props. It's available in so many different markets. Plus, there's plenty of opportunities to win in their daily MLB contests. And of course, make sure you enter Best Ball Mania, where first place gets $1 million. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use that promo code SGPN for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Once again, that's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. All right. Jumping now over to the North Carolina Tar Heels. I put their trajectory as down. You guys put it as steady, and I'm curious, why'd you put it as steady when you have a 72-year-old coach?
Well, do you remember the Fedora years?
True.
So I think the talent is there. It's been there the last few years, and I think they're going to have a pretty similar year that they've had for the last 3 years. They're going to win 7 or 8 games or so.
The Coastal
maybe 9.
The Coastal's gone.
Yeah,
Phil Longo's gone, and your coach is very old. Banana pudding guy, would you say?
Nanner pudding.
Yeah. Look, I like
it's a good point. It's a fair point, but you can go either way here. But I still think, I mean, they have a Heisman candidate.
True.
I mean, isn't this exactly what he was doing at the end of his tenure in Texas? Recruiting at a high level still, but running a country club environment and just getting out physical.
You're right, because Taysom Hill ran for like 7,000 yards against Texas.
Yeah.
And BYU was just so much more physical than Texas, which is fucking crazy.
The thing is, if he gets to 8-4, North Carolina is going to be fine with it.
Yeah. We got, as long as we do good in basketball. But I put it as down. I put it as slightly down. It doesn't mean that I think the bottom's going to fall out here. I just think their coach is going to. If you're a recruit right now, are you committing to North Carolina knowing that this guy might be retired next year?
Well, Michael Jordan just freed up a bunch of his money since he's no longer the owner of the Hornets. So that NIL might be looking strong.
Is that NIL money or is that his gambling debt?
Yeah, you know.
Anyway, I will take I'm going on trajectory down. Let's talk about Florida State, the Seminoles. Obviously, they've killed it in the transfer portal lately, and Norvell seems to have finally gotten them back to preseason hype and winning 9 games a season ago. Big step. I think all of us had to take the over on this, right?
Yeah.
Or not the over. Yeah, the up trajectory, upper deck. Clemson. NC Nick, what do you think about Clemson?
Let me ask you this real quick
about thing. Go ahead.
Let me ask you about Mike Norvell real quick. Can he secure his reputation as an elite coach if he gets them up there? And if he does that,
secure his reputation?
or earn the reputation as an IE coach. Yeah, sorry. Will we start to consider think of him as that? And then will that obviously you would think impact recruiting, because I feel like that's kind of been scaring people away from Florida State. But if he starts pulling in top 5 classes after this year, then all of a sudden we could have, a real deal there. It's a big year for him.
Possible.
It is a big year for him. I'm still a little reluctant to think that in the NIL era, because I just think the other schools have, like, the ACC and the Big 12 and Pac 12 are at such a disadvantage right now.
Yeah.
That I think it's going to be hard for them to get to the top 5 recruiting level.
True.
But maybe. Clemson, Nick, tell me what your thoughts are here.
If they lose 3 games this year for the 3rd year in a row, then that arrow is going down, especially the reluctance to entertain the transfer portal. So it's you could argue it's a big year for Dabo. Look, Dabo doesn't need to prove anything to anybody, but right now it's, none of us said up. It would have been up 5 years ago. We all said they're just, they're maintaining right now. But if they, like I said, if they lose a few games this year, then I think if we do the same graphic next year, I think we'll have it going down.
Yeah. But right now, since we're projecting them on the over, I got to say holding steady.
Yeah. I say holding steady too, especially because I feel like they're going to win the ACC probably this year. So
yeah,
holding steady with Dabo Swinney. Folks, we are the College Football Experience. We talk college football year round. We've been doing this shit for years. Make sure you check out, we've previewed, we're in the middle of previewing all 133 college football teams. So make sure you check out each solo podcast, like basically an hour on each college football team in all the land. 3802 says, can I ask a production question for these live streams? Is there a ban on Patty C shotgunning, or has he been an absolute gentleman this year? Huh?
No, here's what happened. I got stuck in LA traffic on the way over, so I didn't have this time to stop and grab beers. I'd also be shit faced right now, so that's why you're seeing gentleman Patty C.
Patty C and gentleman rarely find themselves in the same sentence.
Folks, though, please check out all those previews as it continues. Just dropped Michigan State earlier today with Brendan Moore, who covers Michigan State. So go check out the Michigan State preview, and we have a bunch more loaded up tomorrow, tonight, all dropping. So check out that. Make sure you give us a follow on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. NC Nick is on Twitter at NC__NICK. Patty C is on Twitter at Patty C831. I am on Twitter at the Colby D. Also, shout out to Noah Beanick behind the scenes. Doing it. Appreciate you, Noah. And folks, check out him. He hosts the College Baseball Experience with us. If college baseball fans, check us out. So we host the College Baseball Experience, the College Basketball Experience. Yes, you'll hear us every night of the college basketball season. We've been doing this shit for years as well. And now we have the FCS College Football Experience. And then you have this show, the College Football Experience, all together as one on YouTube, youtube.com/the college experience. And might I add in the Big 12 experience with Moneyline Mac now added to the family tree as well. Check out that, as they're always talking Big 12 over there, no matter the sport. So check out all those. Shout out to Anthony Eason. Great show, guys. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Anthony. And folks, so hop on over to YouTube, youtube.com/the college experience. Also, please hop on over to iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. Folks, it's time for the I get it. Everyone's been on vacation. I get it. You've been slamming down drinks in Cancun, right? I get it. But now it's time. We're in the focus, people. To hop on over. It takes 3 fucking seconds out of your day to go to iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. Tell a friend. All right.
Boom.
Come on. 5-star review. I don't even care if you call me a fucking idiot. Just give us the 5 stars. All right. So do that. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast. I know we got Phil Steele slated for an interview. We'll air that here too. So we're going to have both. But Phil Steele will be on the show next week. And get the SGPN app. It's free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. Also check out the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. It's basically like a house party of DJs. So check that out. And please, until next week, we will do the Conference USA. We might have to come in. I don't know. I'm going to talk to the guys, see if we can schedule a emergency Conference USA one, because we're off schedule already. But yeah, please, next week, this will continue as we'll go through all 10 conferences before the season kicks. All right. This is the College Football Experience, ACC Conference Preview. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot. And the whole team's looking, and the whole world's looking with a camera. We can really run and shoot. And you know what to get.